This is Monty in the Morning, the show Phoenix Magazine readers voted #1 talk radio show in Arizona.
#1 during your morning commute.
#1 whenever news breaks during your day.
And #1 whenever and wherever you want to talk sports.
Now it's time for Monty in the Morning.
Hey, yo, man. How the heck are you? It's Monday. The voice is not awake yet. Hey, yo, man. How the heck are you? It is the Monty Show. Happy Monday, August 22nd, 2022. 2 weeks from right now, it'll be Mrs. Monty's birthday.
Yes.
And we will be on Kona in Hawaii.
Yes.
And you won't. I know, you're jealous. It is what it is, right? We will be doing shows from Hawaii right here on the Monty Show. Really looking forward to that. Will we by then have a Utah Jazz, New York Knicks, Donovan Mitchell trade? Probably not. Maybe. Who knows? We have the latest update on that, and it is actually a pretty substantial update and a question about Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith. Is Ryan Smith cash-strapped? I know it's crazy. He's a tech billionaire, but is Ryan Smith looking for money? We'll talk about that. Why isn't Cam Rising in the building as a Heisman Trophy candidate? Why will he likely not be in New York when that trophy is handed out in December? I want to talk about that coming up. Porch Pirates are running crazy, and I dreamt about Manti Te'o all night long.
Yeah. Damn Netflix.
We watched the Manti Te'o documentary last night because, one, we're dumb.
Right.
I don't know why we did this to ourselves.
I don't know.
But it is crazy if you have not seen it. So we're going to talk about that coming up. But without further ado, I want to remind you we're sending 2 listeners to see BYU and Notre Dame, speaking of Manti Te'o,
Right.
in Las Vegas, October 7th and 8th.
Hello.
And all you have to do is go to any of the 5 barbecue pit stop locations in Utah, including Layton, Lehigh, Logan, St. George, and our good friends in Murray. Make sure you stop by. There's a box on the counter. It is very easy. All you do is fill out the slip, drop it in the box, and you could win. We'll announce that winner September 17th at the barbecue pit stop in Lehigh, when we are watching the BYU-Oregon game. See, we're going to have a watch party. We're going to have a bunch of wings.
People are flying in to come to the watch party, by the way. Just saying.
How about that? How about Lopes fan Gabe?
Yeah,
telling
is
us
going to be
he's
attending.
coming in. That's going to be great. It's going to be a party. We are going to have such a good time at that party. It is September 17th at the barbecue pit stop in Lehigh. We're going to have wings, pizza. We'll have all kinds of stuff, all the best smokers, because that's what you get when you go to barbecue pit stop. But without further ado, let's get you caught up on the very latest, in my grovelly voice, of the Utah Jazz and the New York Knicks trying to get a Donovan Mitchell deal done. Now, as I told you last week, the likelihood of this deal being done before September 1st is not likely. And I only say that because Patrick Beverley is on hold. He cannot contractually be traded until the end of August, so about another 10 days. I think that is the earliest, from what I've been told, that this trade could go down. But Friday into Saturday, we got new news about what the Jazz and the Knicks are doing, and they are looking for a third team because the Jazz and the Knicks have agreed that they can't make this deal on their own. And the reason they can't make this deal on their own is because Danny Ainge has held firm on his asking price. And Jake, I think Danny Ainge has done a very good job of sticking to his guns here and not taking less than his original asking price for Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that Danny Ainge is doing his job here. You know, I think that a lot of executives around the league would have, compromised, if you will. They would have given in, if you will. And I think Danny has done a great job on that, as I've said many times in the past. But I think what's interesting is just, what we see, what we see and hear about this trade versus what we see and hear, from Donovan Mitchell and his camp and like the videos he's putting out. And I think a lot of people are noticing the fact that Donovan Mitchell seems, as happy as one could be during the offseason, putting in his work, playing in pro-ams, doing all that, but then he's on a boat with a DJ set, having a great time. Like, Donovan Mitchell is just doing him, and I think that Don is in a place where he understands no matter what uniform he's wearing, he has to come out and have one of those years. He's got to have a career year, a make-a-point kind of year. And so for Donovan, I don't think that this whole dynamic that a lot of people bring up of like Don being annoyed or somehow perturbed or unnerved or whatever, feeling a negative type of way about this trade conversation, I don't think that exists. I think Donovan understands exactly what's happening here, which is, people are calling Danny Ainge and saying, hey, what would it take? And Danny's giving him a certain price, and he's not going to come off of that. And I honestly think that Donovan Mitchell is okay with that. Donovan understands, hey, this is a business. If someone wants to give you some ridiculous price, then I'm cool with that. It's fine. I don't think that this is a situation where Donovan is salty or upset or anything like that. And that's why I say, and have been saying, for Danny Ainge, there is no rush. There is no, force pushing him to make this deal. So when we hear, hey, they need to add a third team to get this deal done, my reaction to that was, that makes perfect sense, because what does that tell us? Danny's not coming off the price. The Knicks, understand that they can't pay 7 first-round picks or whatever in players to get this deal done, because that leaves them nowhere to go. So the natural path is a third team. I don't think this really changes the situation at all. I just think this is what they've been working to for, however long this has been going on now, 6-8 weeks.
Well, I think, excuse my voice this morning, I think what is pretty clear is they need a third team here. I think this makes a lot of sense. I think I agree with you 100%. I don't think the Jazz are desperate to trade Donovan Mitchell. I think if they had their druthers, they probably would not, but I don't think you can walk away from the kind of compensation that they are potentially going to get if they make a Donovan Mitchell deal. And, frankly, I think so much has been written over the last week that just isn't true. And you hear so many rumors and you hear so much innuendo about who called who. Who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? They have talked regularly. You hear all this rigmarole about how they didn't talk for a month. I can tell you that's just factually not true. We've reported since this first came out, which I think, looking back at the channel, we first talked about this on the 6th of July, that the Knicks have been calling the Jazz for over a year on Donovan Mitchell. This is not new interest, right? But the thing that I think is very clear is that the Jazz and the Knicks have had very, very deep, long conversations about how in love they are with each other making a Donovan Mitchell deal.
Right.
And that they realize, hey, there's a deal to be done here.
Yep.
But the right structure is likely not in place for a one-to-one deal.
Yeah.
That much is very clear, because Leon Rose is not giving up 6 picks. I thought it was pretty funny over the weekend that the New York media jumped on, a report that said, oh, Danny hasn't come off his original trade demand and the Knicks are frustrated. And we've been reporting that for over a month on this show, that the Knicks were frustrated. There's no doubt about it. Danny Ainge has never acquiesced off of his demand for 6 first-round picks. Danny Ainge has said from the jump, Grimes has to be in this deal. Well, the thing is, the Knicks have said, we're not giving you 6 first-round picks, and we're not giving you Grimes.
Right.
And I think that's why you have to find a third team. I don't know who that third team's going to be, because, frankly, I don't see that teams like the Lakers, who I know have tried to get involved in this Donovan Mitchell deal, in that they'd like to be the third team. The Lakers have nothing to offer.
Facts.
They're not going to give up their 2 future first-round picks because they want to make a Kyrie Irving deal. So they just are, Talen Horton-Tucker is not pushing anybody over the line. That's the thing that stands out to me most here is I think it's going to be really difficult to find a third team to complete this deal.
Yeah, and why would the Utah Jazz take on the responsibility of buying Russell Westbrook out? Because certainly he would have to be involved in this situation. So to me, what's happening right now is Leon Rose is having to go around the league and call teams and see who has what and who might be interested and whatever. He's doing the legwork to see if he can find a third team. But yeah, teams like the Lakers or teams like the Celtics or any of these teams that are contenders every single year and are really tight as far as cap space is concerned and money is concerned are probably not going to be viable options. You need to find a team that, I'm not saying they got to be a bottom feeder, but they have to have some flexibility. They got to have some value. And usually what that looks like is a mid-table or lower table team. That's what those teams have. They have capital to do some deals. So it'll be interesting to see how this comes together, but I just thought it was really interesting that, as you said, that the New York media kind of rode this train of like, hey, Danny pissed off Leon Rose, and that's why they stopped talking, and there's all this drama, when really there's not a lot of drama. They have been talking for like a year. Like, this is not something new. And now we're evolved into, hey, we need a third team.
Well, and furthermore, I would say this goes back to the trade deadline. Certainly, I mean, in January, I was told the Knicks really started pushing for a Donovan Mitchell deal. They wanted to get that deal done at the deadline. The Jazz simply haven't had an appetite to trade Donovan. And I think they had been committed, as we had told you back in December, they had been committed to building around Donovan Mitchell. They had been committed to trading Rudy Gobert's contract, building around Donovan Mitchell. And frankly, I don't think that has changed.
Yeah.
The only thing that's changed here is that Leon Rose was willing to put in substantially more capital, both in draft picks and in humans. And I think the frustration comes in when Danny Ainge just isn't a guy that's fun to negotiate with. He is a very difficult negotiator. Danny's notorious for that. And multiple people around the NBA have told me, hey, this deal's not close. And I want to make that very clear. This deal's not close today. I think as the next 10 days go on, that's when you're going to find out how much Leon Rose is willing to pay for Donovan Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
If he is able to put together a package, and this is on Leon Rose, by the way, if Leon's willing to do the work to go out and put together a package, I think this deal's done. If you can get Danny Ainge a minimum of 4 first-round picks, and they're going to have to be unprotected. It's not a thing where it is qualified or, top 10 protected. No.
Yeah.
These are 4 unprotected first-round picks, 2 more first-round picks to go with that, and I think you're going to have to find him a young star. You're going to have to put a guy like a Quentin Grimes into this deal. And if it's not Quentin Grimes, it's going to have to be somebody else's Quentin Grimes.
Yeah.
And that's why I say a third team is going to be very difficult to come by here. Because if you look at the teams that you have heard about, and whether that be Toronto, I mean, the guy you want in Toronto is Scotty Barnes. And by all accounts, Kevin Durant is not getting Scotty Barnes.
Y'all feel me?
I don't see any way that Scotty Barnes is a chip that comes from a third team to finish a trade.
Yeah.
That makes no sense whatsoever. So you start looking at a Washington, who we've heard about. Washington as a third team is interesting, but does Kyle Kuzma put the cherry on top of a Donovan Mitchell trade? I just don't think he does. And the reason I say that is not that Kyle's a bad player, but he's wildly inconsistent, and you know who he is as a player, and he is paid. That's the other thing here, and it brings you back to this conversation about R.J. Barrett. What is the appetite of Danny Ainge and the Utah Jazz to outlay cash on a guy like an R.J. Barrett who is eligible for a max extension on his rookie deal?
Mm-hmm.
The answer is I don't know. And I have been told routinely that the Jazz don't want to pay R.J. Barrett. And I think if the Jazz are going to take R.J. Barrett, I don't think that means that they're willing to pass on a Quentin Grimes. I, in fact, think that if you're taking R.J. Barrett and you're Danny Ainge, I think you're not holding on to him long-term. In fact, I think you would have to have Quentin Grimes in that deal. So the Jazz and the Knicks have progressed to, hey, we know we can't do this deal 1v1. We need to add a third team.
Yeah.
And I think they are both like-minded in that. I think that if Danny can get, 6 first-round picks, 4 unprotected, this deal's going to happen. If Danny cannot, this deal's not going to happen. It just makes too much sense for the Jazz to hold on to Donovan Mitchell, and it makes no sense at all for the Jazz to sell low on Donovan Mitchell. Let's say 3 first-round picks. Is 3 first-round picks really, replacement value for a guy in Donovan Mitchell that most people believe is going to come out and have a 30-point season?
Well, and who is he for the Utah Jazz? I think that's the other thing here that's important. Who is Donovan Mitchell to the Utah Jazz? I got news for you. He's very important, right? Like, Donovan Mitchell is the only thing you have going for you in current day. It's not like, some of these other teams that have, like, if we were talking about Jaylen Brown, you could say, yeah, hey, 3 first-round picks is fine because you have Jason Tatum. The Utah Jazz don't have another Donovan Mitchell. So that's why it's got to be 4 unprotected. That's why it has to be 6 overall and a couple of players, because you're asking the Jazz to give away their crowning jewel of a player so that you can go and do what you want to do. But I'd also say that it's not good business by the Knicks to do this deal on their own. And I'm glad to hear Leon Rose saying that. Like, it doesn't make sense for us to give up the farm to go and get Donovan Mitchell when we know we're going to need more to go and contend for an NBA championship. So I think the Knicks also deserve credit here for being smart and not taking that big jump when that big jump only gets you so far, which is what you've been saying for a while now,
Well, I'm very much a realist about players in this league. And my honest opinion on Donovan Mitchell is he's a superstar in the making, but he's not winning the Knicks a championship with the way that team is currently constructed.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about this at length, but Donovan Mitchell, if you take away a Quentin Grimes, if you take away an RJ Barrett, either one of those two, Donovan Mitchell doesn't bring you a championship. I don't know even if you add Donovan Mitchell to that team with RJ Barrett and Quentin Grimes.
Mm-hmm.
And, Julius Randle really is the odd fit there. But in that group in total, that's not a championship caliber club.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make a lot of sense, as we said last week, to give away 4 first-round picks, then to have to go and make another trade on top of that where you're going to give away the rest of those assets. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to overpay for a guy in Donovan Mitchell who very much is at a tipping point in his career, and you don't want to be the proving ground on the wrong side of it. That's too much like Isaiah Thomas ran the Knicks.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're the Knicks, you don't want to do that deal. If you're Danny Ainge, I think you are in a position where you don't have to trade Donovan Mitchell. You know that he's a guy that with what you got in return for Rudy Gobert and what you're going to get in return for Bojan Bogdanovic, and my sources tell me they are absolutely trading Patrick Beverley. If you are able to get return on those guys, you're in a position where a year from now, you can be competing at the top of the Western Conference. So there is no urgency, which is the other problem in this deal. There's no urgency for either side to make this trade happen. So I know that fans tend to obsess over, well, you called him or he called you, or, hey, who's going to win this trade?
That's every day.
There is no winning this trade. Somebody's going to lose. And in my estimation, when this trade gets made, and I think there is, I move to the more likely percentage of 65-35, this trade does not happen. I think 65% Donovan Mitchell stays with the Jazz, and I can tell you Jazz sources have told me repeatedly they are planning to have him at training camp. They are operating under the idea that Donovan Mitchell is going to be in training camp with the Utah Jazz. That's a win for the Jazz. That's not a loss for the Knicks. They still have 86 million first-round picks. They still have all that young talent. Nobody needs to make this trade. Nobody needs to make this trade. Understand that that's an important distinction to make. You take such a risk when you send out this kind of bounty for a guy in Donovan Mitchell who, frankly, I think is in a prove-it year.
Yeah.
This is an incredibly important season for Don. A year from now, I'd be much more willing to trade 4 first-round picks for Donovan Mitchell. I'm not so willing to do that now. That's kind of where I come down on it.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I absolutely think that's fair. And I think that, again, we all expect Donovan Mitchell to come out and do great things, but he's got to go and do those great things first. And that's a very important distinction, and I think that's why this is taking a long time, because
This is why?
This is why, at the end of the day, with all due respect, this is why it's taking a long time.
Well, let's see. Is Kurt Myers? Oh, Kurt Myers is the first one in today.
There you go. See?
Oh, it's not Kurt, though. It's Steve Peterson.
Steve Peterson.
Not to slander you.
Right,
Kurt.
right.
Tanner Plummer says, good morning. Spencer D says, saw, dudes.
Spencer D.
He's the saw dude guy. Hey, there's Steve Peterson, with all due respect.
Steve.
Spencer D says, how's the cut going? I'm working out while listening to the show. Dude! I got to tell you, cut's going great. All new low time weight for me on Saturday morning, which I was thrilled about. I only weigh myself once a week. And frankly, the other thing I did when you're trying to lose weight and you're cutting, and we're going through this casuals getting cut, one of the things that I did over the weekend that's very dangerous is I went clothes shopping, because we're going on this trip to Hawaii. Dude, it was awesome. I pulled out a bunch of clothes out of my closet that have not fit in a long time. They're all they're huge on me. Like, I have these really nice camouflage, like camo cargo shorts that are just so comfortable.
Yes.
They did not fit anymore. And so when I picked up during the pandemic, I gained like 1,500 pounds. Most of it was honestly, most of it was cock weight, but it's fine. Man. Anyway, the point is, I put those cargo pants back on, and they fit great. They actually were too big. I need to wear a belt with those, so I was super excited about that. Mm-hmm. So the cut's going good. How is the cut going for you?
No, I'm still fat. I'm fat. You know, I'm fat.
M. Alvarez says, good morning. Dave Heath says, good morning, fellas. Connor Tulin says, episode. Okay. He says, here comes the "we told you RJ was involved" episode. I don't know if RJ Barrett's involved or not.
Why would this be the "we told you RJ was involved" episode? I don't understand where that's coming from.
Yeah, I think we've been pretty consistent that the Jazz are out on two players. The Jazz are out on Julius Randle. They have made that very clear, unequivocally. The Jazz have no interest in Julius Randle. And the only hesitation the Jazz have with RJ Barrett is they got to extend him. And I don't know. One of the interesting conversations is the situation with Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith. Ryan Smith did something that was very interesting on Friday. Mm-hmm. He added a minority owner, a silent partner, to the organization. Now, they say that this was to help Ryan Smith and his group bring another professional franchise to Utah. But I'm not sure that I'm buying that. Mm-hmm. Hear me clearly on this. I do not think that Ryan Smith is struggling financially. I do not. I have been told that they want for nothing, that the Jazz are thriving financially. Okay, that's great. But one thing is very clear. The company and the silent partner, it's not like Jimmy Bob from Tooele kicked in $50 million and he's a silent partner. Mm-hmm. The details on this company that Ryan Smith added as a silent partner are kind of interesting, Jake.
Yeah, so the name of this company is Arctos Sports Partners. Their managing and controlling members are based in Texas. They went to TCU. You can find them on their website. But what's more interesting, just the first thing that's on their website. Like, I'm not talking about going digging through their website. The first thing on their website, this is their message. Quote, providing thoughtful liquidity and structured growth capital solutions to sports franchise owners. Notice it doesn't say, hey, we're trying to, buy, shares so we can start new teams or we can grow markets. Notice it doesn't say that. What does it say? Again, providing thoughtful liquidity and structured growth capital solutions to sports franchise owners. Okay. Hey, maybe that's just me reading too much into that, right? So then what do? On their website, they have a bunch of tabs like every website does. I go to their strategy tab just to see, how do they operate? What are they trying to do? And they have 4 sections to the strategy tab. One of the sections is named Attractive Opportunity. Under that, you've got 2 bullet points, one of which says opportunity to provide liquidity and growth capital to a historically inefficient market. So when I read that, combined with what I read first on the homepage, that says to me, hey, we're looking for markets that aren't big yet, and we're looking for opportunities to give owners in those small markets, if you will, more operating capital by bringing them liquidity. So no, Ryan Smith isn't struggling for money, but my opinion is, based on this and based on what we heard and based on the fact that you're bringing in the UFC and you're doing more events and everything, is that, hey, you have this valuation. You are a billionaire. You have this money. Money's not your problem. Liquidity is your problem.
Yes.
That's your issue. Your money's tied up. It's not flexible right now. That is what I think is going on with Ryan Smith. That is what I think the whole point of this Arctos sports management thing is, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's something to watch very closely, because I think it is smart business to always be liquid as possible. I think everybody agrees with that. But I also think it's smart business to get your financial house in order. And you just traded the largest contract you have on your books. You didn't do a TV deal. This uniform launch didn't go off as you had hoped. I'm just interested to see, how is the money going to be spent over the next 18 months? Let's really, and I know 18 months seems like a long time. In financial circles, it is not. Let's really pay attention to how Ryan Smith and the Utah Jazz go about their business. And I think, I'm from what I understand, there's some pretty major business announcements coming from the Jazz here over the next probably 4 weeks.
Yeah.
That are going to be interesting. And we'll see exactly how all of that plays out. But I don't think that Ryan Smith is in financial trouble. But I got to tell you, I've heard it from 3-4 different NBA sources wondering why, several different things were done several different ways.
Yeah.
And maybe this explains it. I think it's exactly right when you look at Arctos and you look at their philosophies and their stated modus operandi and the way they do business and where they spread their cash around and how it's to be used.
Thoughtful liquidity and structured growth capital solutions to sports franchise owners.
Which is not to say bringing another professional franchise to Utah. I don't know that those two things work together. Did you inject cash into this group so that the group could afford a MLB expansion franchise, an NHL expansion franchise, to build a new arena that could house hockey and basketball, to build a new stadium that could house a Major League Baseball team? That doesn't seem like a cash injection would quite get that done.
No.
That's not what this sounds like to me, right? So if I look at Arctos and I look at the way they do business and I look at Ryan Smith and I look at where he is, I mean, he's got a minority interest in RSL. He's got, something doesn't quite add up.
Dude, it doesn't add up
exactly.
to bringing another sports franchise here, which is what, everyone in the media was saying, oh, well, he sold his share so that they could bring a baseball team here or whatever. And that does not make sense to me. It just doesn't, like in the current climate with where things are at, you don't go out and buy an NBA franchise and then on top of that, buy a minority share in RSL. Then to go and expand into a third team or a third opportunity, a year and a half, 2.5 years in, like young into your ownership of that NBA team?
Because when did he make his RSL inject? When did he buy into RSL? Several months ago now, it seems like. So are you telling me this add another professional?
January 6, 2022.
Yeah, okay, so 6 months ago.
Yeah.
8 months ago now.
Yeah.
So are you telling me that you just started thinking about here in the last 2-3 months adding another professional sports franchise to Utah? The math doesn't add up here.
Yeah.
The timeline doesn't add up here. And I think this is something to watch very quickly, because one thing that we know, Ryan Smith is not dumb.
No.
Ryan Smith is an operator. He is a calculated businessman. And I'm curious. I don't feel like this is a thing where he's over leveraged. I feel like something else is happening.
And, the other thing that stood out to me, and again, I'm not trying to go down the rabbit hole here, but this was one other thing that really stood out to me on the homepage of Arctos' website. It says, our mission is to partner with owners and leagues to increase liquidity and financial flexibility for ownership groups using a collaborative, thought partner approach. So, hey, we're not gonna come in and dictate to you how to do things, but we are gonna give you advice based on what we see and based on what you're asking us to do and how much liquidity you're looking for. So that's why I say it's not as if the conversation isn't, hey, is Ryan Smith broke or is Ryan Smith somehow in financial trouble? That's not the conversation. The conversation is, why does Ryan Smith need more liquidity right now? What is he trying to do with that liquidity? That's the conversation. And to me, it's interesting timing with the All-Star game coming. You're spending all this money. It makes me wonder, is there a plan where, you didn't have it necessarily in your budgeting, I guess, for the All-Star game, and that's why you need liquidity? I don't know, man. It's all speculation. But my point just is this is not about adding a team to Salt Lake. This is about Ryan Smith and this ownership group has a goal for what they're trying to do, and they wanted to add liquidity to accomplish that goal, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think that Ryan Smith is a calculated guy. He is he's a Utah through and through.
Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. What's up, brother?
Brother
says, I agree with your comments if I'm a Jazz fan, but I'm a Knicks fan, and I don't know what happens next, and I feel sorry for them. They need to figure out between the trade and we trust and that it would be perfect. I don't know what you mean. Tanner Plummer says, are the Knicks fan... Tanner? Okay, Tanner's stirring the drink now in the comments. Okay. Cash Out James, good morning to you. Mr. E, the Jazz having cap space means nothing. No one is signing with Utah.
Donnie, please.
Do we really have to explain this again?
Well, the one thing we didn't touch on with the Ryan Smith thing, and this comment kind of plays to it, is Salt Lake a major market? Is Salt Lake a major metro opportunity?
Oh, I think it is for sure. I think one of the things that we know is that one of the reasons that players like playing here is because there are big business opportunities. I mean, there is no doubt about that with Silicon Slopes here, with the billions of dollars in tech that are here, like the apps, the gaming world.
Adobe!
Like being able to buy, esports teams and all of the things that we've seen athletes come to Utah to do. I mean, there's definitely opportunities here. I think there's no doubt that the best way to get talent here is to trade for players. There's no doubt about that. But when you look at no one is signing in Utah,
I disagree with that.
It just shows how naive Cash Out James and people outside of Utah are. I think that's I think that's very clear. Caleb, good morning to you. What's the obsession with Quentin Grimes? Well, the obsession with Quentin Grimes is he's a hell of a young player, and he's really talented.
And if you're giving up Donovan Mitchell, you need a young stud back.
Yeah, I think that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for certain. There is no doubt about that. CAA Mafia says, what star of Mitchell caliber stars Pat through a rebuild at the age of 25? Okay. No one. A Spider will make it known closer to training camp. That what? If you're inferring that Donovan's going to demand a trade, you're crazy. That's just not, there would be no reason for him to do that now. His value is low. His value is not high. So demanding a trade when you're low makes very little sense. Why did Kevin Durant demand a trade now? Well, because one, he's got value, and two, he wants to win championships.
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell's at a completely different place. Donovan Mitchell doesn't have a ton of value right now, and Donovan Mitchell has to prove that he's a star in this league. So the idea that now would be the right time for him to do that is crazy. I mean, it's just not, it doesn't matter. Brother says, I know that the Jazz will probably agree to trade Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks. Besides, the third team will be a perfect fit, could be a perfect to rebuild and trust the team. I just don't, the problem is you can't go to New York and expect to win a championship with the Knicks. I just don't see, if you're the Knicks and you make a Donovan Mitchell trade, and I know I just said this, but not to be redundant, you're not winning a championship.
Yeah, and they've all but said that as well. I mean, it's been well known that that's why they don't want to trade the whole farm to get Donovan Mitchell, because they know they got to make another deal.
Scott Howard says, I may sound like I'm whining, but my passion for the NBA is as low as it's ever been. Player moves teams so much and malcontents like Katie and Harden. Why care about a team that doesn't care about themselves?
Well, I think that burnout factor is real in the NBA
Yes,
right
it
now.
is.
I mean, I think we've had, your point there was Scott, I think is well taken. Like, I think that the Durant thing has a lot of burnout. I'm burned out on it. I've been saying, frankly, we've had probably close to 10 conversations this offseason about how, like, we need something to happen. We need some movement. Like Kevin Durant and really Danny Ainge kind of wrecked the trade cycle in this offseason with the Gobert deal.
I would agree with that.
And then you combine that with the Durant stuff. Like, there is a lot of burnout. And I think, so you take what's happened now and you stack that on top of the bubble. And then, just everything that's sort of transpired, it just brings this sense of like, damn, like these guys are getting paid like hundreds of millions of dollars to play basketball. Like, why do they always have to be upset and be malcontents? I totally get why you feel that way, man. The good news is college football kicks off in, 8 days or whatever it is, or 7. I can't remember the number, but that's the good news. That's the silver lining here.
Yeah. Kenai Johnson, good morning to you. He says, so if the Jazz do get RJ and have to extend him, what's the number you think? Because it sounds like RJ is in a prove-it year also. Is RJ in a prove-it year?
I think when you're what did we say he was?
22?
22. When you're 22 and you're trying to get a max and you're trying to do things in the league and make noise, I think
you're already averaging 20 points a game. Like, I don't know that you're in a prove-it deal.
I think you're in your growth curve. You're in this place where you have to continue to get better. Like, 20 points a night no longer is good enough if you're RJ Barrett, just with where you want to go.
But the Knicks, the Jazz, whoever, somebody's going to give him a max extension. That's not even a doubt.
This is the DeAndre Ayton conversation. DeAndre Ayton is not well liked, but he's a hell of an offensive player. And so look how the Suns handled that. They made him go and hit free agency before they would sign the qualifying sheet. So that's why I say, like, someone's going to pay him. You're exactly right. I just don't think that Danny Ainge wants to be laying out that type of capital in their process. And that's why
I would agree with that.
That's why this whole thing about Knicks fans being pissed off that we said that RJ was not, great for the Jazz and that RJ isn't an elite player yet. Like, it's not that we hate RJ Barrett, but you just have to look at the Jazz situation and understand that paying him a max extension just doesn't make sense.
Yep, I would agree. Rhett Smith says, I think Ryan Smith making this deal is attractive to MLB, NHL, or NFL by saying I have the money to build world-class facilities. Well, the way you do that is you build world-class facilities. And I think it'll be interesting to see, like, the cash injection that Ryan Smith is going to get from the NBA and is getting from the NBA to improve the Vivint Arena for the All-Star game. Those are upgrades that are happening there, right? So, because the NBA comes in and they essentially say, okay, if you want the All-Star game, we need to have X, Y, and Z in your building. And so they inject a little bit of money, the Jazz inject a little bit of money, and the building gets an upgrade. The question is the money that Ryan Smith got from Arctos, is that build an NFL stadium money? Is that build an MLB stadium money? Because we're talking about billions of dollars to do that.
Yeah.
And that we're talking about billions in dollars of debt load to do that. If I'm Ryan Smith, am I really looking to take on more debt? I'm probably not.
Not yet.
And my guess is maybe the only thing that makes sense is if he's doing this for something down the road. If that's why he's doing this. I think there's so much we don't know because Ryan's not talking.
Because it's all part of the plan.
And I think that's why he's not talking.
Yeah.
Avery Forbes says, what could a Westbrook to the Jazz trade look like? I still maintain that that's not an option. Russell Westbrook doesn't have a home on the Jazz roster.
No.
He just does
He'll
not.
never put a Jazz jersey on.
In any way, shape, or form. If you're trading for Russell Westbrook, you're buying him out. And does a team that's looking to, is it a team that could be cash-strapped looking to buy out Russell Westbrook?
No.
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
But you see what I mean? Like, whether it's Westbrook or RJ Barrett, like these certain players that don't really fit into what the Jazz are trying to do, that's why the deal is taking its time. It's not that I think we've graduated from Danny's asking for too much to, hey, how are we going to get this done? And that's what I think the conversation is. That the conversation has changed a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think one of the more interesting things, we need 3 weeks. Give me 3 weeks. And I think when this deal goes down, our reaction to it, I think will be very interesting, because I don't see a whole lot of scenarios where I positively react to a Donovan Mitchell trade, unless it's an absolute landslide. And I just think I've heard too much good about Leon Rose to believe that Leon's paying 6 first-round picks. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It doesn't. Steve Johnson says, I still hold that once I heard the Millers sold the Jazz, that they could be on the way out of Utah. Not in the near term, mind you, but it still didn't give me a warm feeling. Ryan Smith is not selling the Jazz. He is not moving the Jazz out of Utah. That would be the shocking, stunning. And by the way, what NBA owner's approving that?
Yeah.
You look at the situation when Sacramento tried to leave, and they tried to relocate to one of 1,000 places with the crap bag Maloofs, and you look at the swell of support and the fan base and the noise that was made there, and they ultimately were not allowed to move that team. There would be, do fans in Utah support the Jazz?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Overwhelming.
Remember, they're second in the league in viewership, just behind the Warriors.
They watch games. They come to games. They buy things. They spend their money on the team. I mean, it's not like nobody shows up. It's not like there's not a population here.
Yeah.
You have no argument to say that the Jazz need to be moved.
And by the way, Ryan's a Utah guy. Remember that.
Yeah, there's no way that happens.
Yeah.
There is just no way that happens at all. Tanner says, speaking of RSL. All right, let's move on. Ruff's official says Smith owns a profitable business. He bought the Jazz, the Bees, and a stake in RSL. He is also looking to buy another pro team. I doubt he's hurting financially. I don't think he's hurting financially.
Again, be really clear on what we said. Be very, very, very clear on what we said. We didn't say he was hurting financially. We never said that.
No.
What I'm saying is that when you bring in liquidity, that tells
this
me...
kind of liquidity.
Yeah, like when you go third party and you're trying to bring in some liquidity, that tells me you're trying to do something, and it doesn't fit in necessarily with where your financial assets are right this second. So meaning, not that he's strapped, but liquidity versus something being held up by a current deal that you're in. Okay, well, if your cash isn't liquid, that means you can't do something. So you're going to partner with people because, hey, Ryan Smith is a tech billionaire. Just not sure if you're aware of this. He knows people. You're going to partner with some people to get it done.
But the Arctos thing doesn't make any sense that's to buy a third professional team.
Yeah, that doesn't add up to
that. Doesn't, because it is billions of dollars.
Yeah.
It is. And I'm happy to,
so here's
I
the
think
thing.
Yes, go ahead.
So my thought, as far as the third team thing is concerned, that concept around this cash influx, this liquidity piece. So you're telling me that you went to a third party company in Arctos to get what? $4 billion? Probably.
Yeah.
I mean that's what we're talking about for a third team. You're talking about like $3-4 billion. So, okay, well, Ryan's not going to do it alone. Ryan's going to partner with some people to start a new team. Okay, I could kind of see that because then, hey, you'd only need, I don't know, $1 billion probably if you're Ryan Smith. To be a full share owner, you need just over 50%, obviously. So you would need, a certain number. But that's why I say it's kind of a stretch to me to think that Ryan Smith would want to go that path with owning something new. Like, Ryan Smith is not a guy who, when he wants to control something and own it outright, he goes and gets money from someone else to pay for what he wants to do. That doesn't make a lot of sense. What you would do in that case is you would own the Jazz for probably 5 to 7 years before you started laying out that kind of cash. So that's why I say the third team thing to me doesn't make a lot of sense. But hey, again, I'm not well informed on what he's trying to do. This is speculation based on what Arctos does and based on Arctos's mission statement, essentially.
The Denver Broncos just sold for $4.65 billion. The down payment on that is $1,395,000,000.
Just a down payment.
Just to have a conversation about buying the team. It's $1 billion just for an NFL team. Like, you're not... the Arctos thing is not to buy an NFL franchise. It's not. I could see, like, look at Major League Baseball. Here's the problem with Major League Baseball. You've got a line of cities that are far more qualified just because they've been in the pipeline for so much longer.
Yeah.
If you look at Charlotte, who's got billionaires on top of billionaires that have been trying to get a team to Charlotte for a generation. You look at Tacoma, Washington. Tacoma, Washington has been trying. You look at Spokane, has been trying.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the problem is, I think the Pacific Northwest is viewed as a small market, and they're not going to have two teams there. That does not make a lot of sense. But you look at the other markets in this country that have been looking for another professional baseball team, I just don't think that it is Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
I don't. I honestly could see another NHL team here. I could see bringing an NHL team to Salt Lake City. That feels like the most probable thing to me.
Yeah.
NHL or Major League Baseball. That feels the most probable. Because with the NHL, you have Denver with the Avalanche, you have Vegas with the Knights. Like, it makes sense.
Well,
like,
I think
could
the Denver
see
dynamic is a huge thing here, right? Like, Denver has everything. And that's what I think a lot of people do. They say, well, it's Denver. You've got the Broncos, you've got the Avalanche, you've got the Nuggets, you've got the Rockies. You've got all these teams. So why do you need teams in Salt Lake? Right? Like, Salt Lake is right next to Denver, isn't it? That's what I think people do. And that's why I think Salt Lake doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. And I also think when we're talking Major League Baseball, I think this whole dynamic in Tampa around the Rays and them moving and, that whole situation is also interesting.
No, friends. It's the Arizona Coyotes. To me, that's what makes the most sense. Do you guys know what the Arizona Coyotes value is? It's $400 million. If you have Ryan Smith in the Salt Lake market that I think does a great job, like, the Grizzlies are a great organization. The Utah Grizzlies, the ECHL team, which is essentially AA hockey, to the Colorado Avalanche, right? The community does a great job supporting that team. Like, the fan base that the Grizzlies have is not the biggest fan base in hockey, but it's certainly a passionate one. If you brought the Arizona Coyotes to Salt Lake City, it's life-changing for hockey in this town.
Mm-hmm.
And it's $400 million.
Which really is not that much.
You can afford to do that. They do not have a home in Arizona. I look at the Arizona Diamondbacks. Like, those are the franchises that we're talking about. Tampa Bay, the problem with Tampa is they've been trying to sell or move that team for how long?
Mm-hmm.
And it has not happened. And it tells me that there's not an appetite there to do that. I honestly think the two most available franchises in baseball, are probably the Arizona Diamondbacks, although I don't know that Ken Kendrick would want to sell. He's the owner of the Diamondbacks. But I think that's absolutely one. It makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
I think Tampa and Arizona are the two most available.
Yeah.
And I think when I look at the Kraken now being in Seattle, I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever that the Arizona Coyotes are the available franchise in hockey. There's just no doubt about that to me.
Yeah, $400 million is a very attainable number. That's just not a lot of money.
And by the way, that's only if you buy them outright. But if you partner with that owner who's a very savvy businessman, the guy that owns the Coyotes, very savvy businessman, if you partner with that owner and you become a minority owner, like 49.9%, and you build a new state-of-the-art facility for the Jazz and the Coyotes, I think you're living well. I absolutely think you're living well.
Yeah.
Call me crazy. I think hockey here would thrive. I think hockey here, NHL hockey in Salt Lake City, I think would absolutely thrive. I think it would. A lot of people have asked me, hey, do you think hockey would surpass RSL? In a moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely in a moment. The hockey community in Salt Lake City is fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. So I think when you look at Ryan Smith, this is not an unintelligent man. He is a wily, savvy operator, a very smart guy.
Yeah.
I do not think he's in financial trouble. I could more buy into the fact that he is struggling for cash. Liquidity is the exact right word that I would use.
Yeah.
Hockey in this town would be bananas.
Yeah.
I think it would do very, very well. Very, very well. All right. Steve Peterson says, come on. It's not MLB or NHL. It's the NFL. He's bringing the NFL here. It's just so expensive. I mean, my God. It's going to, I can't even think of a franchise that you would move here.
I don't think this town, I think this town is so driven by college football that I'm not sure that an NFL team would outperform the college football teams here unless that team was winning a lot. You'd have to be playoff team caliber team to outperform the college teams here, in my opinion. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. But I just think you have a perfect setup with college football here.
Yeah, I don't know. Man, that's tough. I think the NFL would thrive here.
It thrives everywhere. I mean, it would make money. That's not really even a conversation. It would make money. But the conversation, again, the conversation isn't around if the NFL would thrive. The NFL would thrive here. There's no question about it. But the conversation is more about money and what Ryan can afford and what Ryan wants to do. That's the conversation. So when you look at the Arctos thing and you look at where Ryan's at and what makes sense logically speaking, Major League Baseball and the NHL make perfect sense. I mean, again, $400 million is just not that's not a lot of money by sports owner standards. It's just not.
Now, $4.95 billion.
That's a ton of money.
That's a ton of money,
dude.
That is a ton of money, and I just don't know. I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting bits from Shams this morning that I think is of note. Shams says that the Denver Nuggets inquired with the Nets about acquiring Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
What do you make of that?
I think the Nuggets have the assets, that's for sure. I think the Nuggets definitely have players, but if I'm the Nets, I'm asking for Jokic, which is never going to happen.
No.
But that's what you have to ask for. So, I mean, they inquired. That means they probably called and asked what it would take. That's what that means.
Yeah, I think that could be interesting. But the other team that he says is new, Shams on The Athletic says, Durant is of interest to the Memphis Grizzlies.
Mm-hmm.
And that the Grizzlies have made new inquiries to the Nets about Durant. Memphis has 5 first-round draft picks available, 4 unprotected selections of its own, and 1 protected via Golden State to utilize in a trade, as well as young players like Jaren Jackson, Desmond Bane, Zaire Williams, Brandon Clark, Kennedy Chandler, and David Roddy.
Plus some guy named Ja Morant.
Well, and obviously Ja Morant and Kevin Durant are very close friends.
Yeah.
I think that's very well known. But I just don't know, if you're Memphis, are you giving up the young core that you've built to trade for Kevin Durant?
Yeah, they're a team that I could easily see winning a championship if you had Kevin Durant. I mean, I think that defensively they're really good. I think Ja Morant's going to continue to grow. I mean, I wouldn't. When's the next time you're going to have, after Ja plays through his rookie deal and does the extension and everything. How long is Ja Morant going to be on your team? I mean, when you're Memphis, those are questions you have to ask. I mean, again, we're seeing it with Donovan Mitchell. Teams like Memphis and Utah and Charlotte, the smaller teams, have to ask that question. And I think that if I'm Memphis, what do you have to lose by going for it?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think when I look at what the Nets have, I mean, if they bring this whole squad back to training camp, and I don't think they will. That's just my opinion. If the Nets show up at training camp,
mm-hmm.
I can't imagine that they struggle in any way, shape, or form to win a championship. I mean, I I look at how good they are right now. Durant, Kyrie, Ben Simmons.
Yeah, but
by the way, Ben Simmons is just about to be cleared to play 5-on-5. I don't know if anybody saw that over the weekend.
you know what I'm going to say, man. That's great. I'm happy he's progressing, but it's very simple with Ben Simmons, at least for me. Ben Simmons has to show that he's kind of a changed man, that when he gets on the floor, he performs. And again, I'm not even joking. When that moment comes in a big game and it's you and you've got the ball in your hand and you got to make a play, you got to show that you can make that play.
Yeah.
And look, I understand. I'm very respectful of the mental health portion of his game and what he's dealt with and the things he was going through. I get it, but again, that doesn't, like, we're going to talk about catfish later in the show and the Manti Te'o thing. Like, just because you're dealing with something doesn't mean that an NBA franchise or a player or whoever has to give you a pass on that. And that's just the world we live in. So the not dunking thing in Philly is still going to haunt Ben Simmons until he proves otherwise. So that's why I say it's great. I'm glad to hear that he's cleared and he's going to start playing. That's awesome. The league is better with Ben in it. But as far as championship teams are concerned, you got to show that you can go out and make the play. That's what has to happen here.
Yeah, and all I know is Kevin Durant better know what the hell he's doing.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
If he leaves, can you really tell me, talent-wise, and I mean just talent-wise, I understand that Steve Nash and all that other garbage is a mess, but can you really tell me that you're going to leave this team in Brooklyn and you're going to find a better situation? Because no matter where you go, they're going to have to give up a haul to get you.
Mm-hmm.
And my feeling is he's not going to win this coming season unless everybody comes back, because with Claxton and Mills and Joe Harris, like they actually have depth in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And, who knows? Maybe TJ Warren only plays 20 games again. But don't forget, they signed TJ Warren. That cat can still play in this league. They have talent. And if your core three are Kyrie, KD, and Ben Simmons, and let's just assume the best. Let's for argument's sake, assume the best about the Brooklyn Nets. Tell me again that Kyrie, KD, and Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton, Joe Harris, like, you look at the roster that they've put together there. Tell me again that team can't compete for a championship in this league.
Facts.
Come on. They're competing at the top of the East, right? I mean, they're on par. This group right now, this group's on par with Milwaukee. They're on par with Philadelphia.
Boston.
I think that, and now we find out that Boston, that Chaboy in Boston was playing with a broken wrist for a good part of the season. He had a fracture, and that Jason Tatum had a fracture in that wrist. I mean, come on. And this is what I say about the Knicks. I mean, even if it is, even if it's, let's say they center a package around Obi Toppin.
Right.
I mean, that's why I say the Knicks are not going to win a championship with Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Even if, let's say Danny took 2 unprotected first-round picks, Obi Toppin, Evan Fournier. I'm telling you now, dude, they're not winning a championship.
Yeah, next question.
It's not going to happen. And Kevin Durant better know what he's doing. KD better know what he's doing.
And I think, again, as we've talked about several times on the show, not new, like the legacy thing, I think is also very much in play. I think that, Kevin, I actually, I was thinking about this over the weekend. I actually think that there's a case to be made that him staying in Brooklyn and just seeing it out. And if Kevin Durant tomorrow were to come out and say, you know what? I messed this situation up. I'm going to play the rest of my contract out in Brooklyn. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be committed to the situation. I'm just going to play it out. I think the respect level for Kevin would go way up. And I think that Kevin would have a lot more to play for than he already does. And so that's why I say, you're right. Like the next team he goes to, it has to happen, or I think that Kevin will be regarded as a guy who, needed help to win and was a ring chaser and and again, we've talked all about the ring chasing thing, but I think that's his legacy right now. Hey, you needed Steph's help. You needed other guys to help you along the way. And I don't think Kevin realizes that right now.
But again, I will just say what I've said for several months. If you're the Jazz, how have you not called them? If you're Denver,
I have to think.
If you're Phoenix.
Dude, if Denver's calling, I have to think Danny at least called.
You'd have to. You have to. But I think everybody. The other week when he reiterated his trade demand to Joe Tsai 2 weeks ago, I guess it's been 2 full weeks now.
Yeah,
since he
already.
did that. I was told 20 teams called the New Jersey Nets, the Brooklyn Nets on Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
the 20 teams called. But again, on your point, like you're not giving up Joker on that. Like there are very few teams in this league who can make that deal happen.
What Kevin Durant
few
needs,
teams.
What Kevin Durant needs, if he is desperate to get out, is he needs time to continue to pass. He needs training camp to get here as fast as possible so that there's more pressure on the Nets so that they will take less. And I don't know, I think it's tough because I don't know that the Nets are ever going to take less. Like, I think the Nets are perfectly fine having him, like, forcing Kevin Durant's hand and making him sit out. I think they're fine with that.
Reed Holmberg says, good morning, fellas. Today is my 7-year anniversary. Wifey and I are going to Ruth's Chris for the first time. Any suggestions?
Well,
number one,
friend.
Go to the Ruth's Chris in Park City, number one. Number two, you can't go wrong. Now, I am a New York strip with 3 sautéed, not grilled, 3 sautéed shrimp on top of that. I'm a huge fan of that. But it just, the sides are all a la carte, and they are lovely. Now, you are a mac and cheese guy, but I'm telling you, you can't go wrong. If you go mushrooms and mashed potatoes, you can't go wrong.
Well, and I think the thing, real quick, on the mac and cheese, specifically at Ruth's Chris, is they do Chipotle mac and cheese, I think, right?
Yes.
So you can ask them to just make you regular mac and cheese, which I highly recommend. I think it's superior to the Chipotle stuff and all that. So I would be going, I'm with you, medium, New York strip, mashed potatoes.
Yeah, and medium.
Yeah.
Not well.
Not medium. Chewy hockey puck. Medium.
Red in the center, crusty top, medium.
Yes.
Medium.
Yes.
But be really specific when you order food at a place like Ruth's Chris. Mm-hmm. I love Ruth's Chris. We eat there probably too often. But I'm telling you now, when you go to Ruth's Chris, hold them accountable. You're paying probably $150, $200 for that meal. The steak's got to be perfect, and it will be. Trust me, it's going to come out on a platter. They'll cut it. You'll see.
Plates are super hot there, so they're going to say it a million times, but it's easy to forget your first time. When the plates come out, don't touch them. They will burn you.
Yes. Brother says yes, LOL, and congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations, Reed. Yes. Reed, congratulations.
Did you say it's 7-year anniversary?
7-year anniversary.
Yeah, congrats, dude.
For
That's
our guy,
awesome,
Reed
bro.
Holmberg.
That's awesome.
Reed, really good to see you this morning. I appreciate you being here. If you're just tuning into the show, welcome into the Monty Show right here. We're live every single day, 6:30 to, 9:30-ish. We don't really have
whenever
rules.
we want, because we don't have rules, and it's,
we are live and local every day, right here on the Monty Show, live on YouTube. Big changes coming to the show over the next month or so. Make sure you stick around for that. Want to remind you, as we talk NBA this morning, the biggest stories in sports, this Donovan Mitchell update. The new details on Donovan Mitchell are just moments away. But I want to remind you that absolutely, positively, on a daily basis, this show is sending listeners to see BYU and Utah, God! That BYU and Notre Dame in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium in the Shamrock Series, October 7th and 8th. Pretty simple. The only way to enter this contest is to go to Barbecue Pit Stop. Any of their 5 Barbecue Pit Stop locations, check them out online. Go to their website, bbqpitstop.com, bbqpitstop.com. They also have enter to win boxes on all of their counters. Go in there, please. Tell them, hey, we found you through the Monty Show. That's how this show works. We don't have a lot of advertisers because we don't want to inundate you with ads. Mm-hmm. But the advertisers we do bring to you, we need you to go there. We need you to call them. Go get your rubs, your spices, your sauces. Go get your Traeger Ironwood 885.
Hell yeah.
Jake made lovely wings on the Traeger last night. Mm-hmm. Hook it up at Barbecue Pit Stop, bbqpitstop.com. September 17th, BYU is at Oregon, Autzen Stadium, Eugene, Oregon. We are going to have a watch party at Barbecue Pit Stop in Lehigh. Okay, that's just about a little less than a month away now. We're going to have wings. Jake's going to make you some lovely wings on the smoker. We're going to have pizza. It's going to be amazing. We're going to watch the game. And then at halftime of BYU and Oregon, we are going to bring to you the winner of that trip. We are going to announce it. Come and join us September 17th, barbecue pit stop in Lehigh. And it's all presented by our good friend Devry Davis at Academy Mortgage. I say it every day, and I'll say it every day. He is simply the best mortgage guy in the business. He's done 3 of my mortgages. And the number one question that I get about mortgages, oh, Monty, I can't afford a down payment. You keep talking about how there's homes available, and you keep talking about how the mortgage rates are low. Bro, I can't afford it. Yes, you can.
Devry Davis with the Davis Lending Team, powered by Academy Mortgage. All right, first-time homebuyers, listen up. This one's for you. There's a huge misconception on how much it takes to buy a house. Is it 20%? Is it 10%? Is it 15%? The answer will surprise you. There's 4 mortgages in the United States. 2 of them require no down payment. 2 require very minimal down payment. Out of that down payment, there's lots of places to get it from. There's state funds, county funds, city funds, lots of ways to buy a house, no money down. When I was 18, I got out of high school. I actually bought a brand new house, no money down. Never regretted it. If you have questions, give me a shout. Glad to walk you through it. Have a great one.
That's our guy, Devry Davis at Academy Mortgage, 801-543-9666, 801-543-9666. He's great.
Call him, bro.
You call him, you talk to him. You're dealing with him directly. You're not going into a farm or a call center. You're talking to Devry Davis at Academy Mortgage directly. And no matter where you listen to the show, no matter where in Utah you are, if you need a mortgage, if you have questions about a mortgage and you're in Poughkeepsie or Tacoma or your mom's house, call Devry Davis. He's got answers. 801-543-9666, NMLS number 278545. Devry Davis and Academy Mortgage are equal housing lenders. The biggest stories in sports this morning, very clearly, the latest updates on Donovan Mitchell. We've heard a lot of wild machinations about trades and what's been offered and what's not. But what we can tell you in certainty is that the Jazz and Knicks have continued to try and find a way to make a deal for Donovan Mitchell. Danny Ainge has not come off of his trade demands. We've reported this for the last 4 weeks. And that is that Danny Ainge is asking for 6 first-round picks and a package of young players that includes Quentin Grimes. We've also told you that from the beginning, the Knicks have offered Obi Toppin and a package of players. They are willing to include a guy like an Evan Fournier or a Cam Reddish to make this deal work financially. But Danny Ainge has made it very clear. I think he wants Grimes and McBride, and I think he is willing to build a package of players around them rather than the other way around. Danny Ainge is not going to compromise on that offer. And the latest updates that we got over the weekend, according to sources at the Utah Jazz, is that the Jazz and the Knicks are working to find a third team to facilitate this trade happening because the Knicks don't want to give up a ton to get Donovan Mitchell, and Danny Ainge is not going to lower his asking price. So a third team is going to be needed to make that happen. And we'll see if that's able to be pulled off. But I've also been told the most likely window for this to happen is around, between the 26th of August and the 1st of September. And I think a lot of that is because Patrick Beverley can be moved in a deal at that point.
Yeah.
So his money would absolutely, make a larger deal possible. I just don't simply think that you can pass up 6 first-round picks. But if the Knicks are only offering 4 picks, 2 first-round unprotected, that's just not a deal the Jazz are going to make.
Yeah.
So this morning, Shams has a new update on Kevin Durant saying that the Memphis Grizzlies are the newest Western Conference team, according to Shams at The Athletic, to make a play for Kevin Durant. Man, I find that hard to believe because the haul of talent that it would take to get Kevin Durant, if you're Memphis, just seems unattainable.
How is that even possible?
Yeah, I mean,
seems
it's a lot.
unattainable.
It's a lot,
to
but again, you have to keep Jaron Jackson Jr. and a couple of their other role players. I mean, that's like Dylan Brooks or those guys that are really impact players for them. Those are the guys you have to keep. I think that, again, I can't say this enough. If you're Memphis, you're trying to win a championship in this window that you have with John Morant. It's got to happen, or it's not going to happen for a long time. So I think they're going to go for it.
Yep. Mesh says, why are 6 draft picks so valuable? Because it's currency. Draft picks in the NBA buy you leverage. So if you're looking to acquire a marquee player such as a Donovan Mitchell, you're going to have to give up those draft picks to get him, right? So if you're trying to get Kevin Durant, you can take those 6 picks and turn them into Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
So draft picks are what all rebuilding franchises want.
That's
and
every day.
when you are the Utah Jazz, look at the Rudy Gobert deal. I mean, you wind up with 5 picks, Walker Kessler, like Patrick Beverly. I mean, you get all this stuff, Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, who, by the way, the other thing I heard over the weekend is that Jared Vanderbilt is the most in-demand Utah Jazz player.
I'm sure he is.
Well, I don't know that. I don't think Danny's going to trade him. I really don't.
No.
So my point is their currency, especially in the 2023 NBA draft, which is arguably the deepest draft we've seen in the last 10 years. So there's a lot of reason to believe that. All right, coming up, I want to get to this Cam Rising Heisman thing, but let's get some more of your comments. NY Jazz fan says draft picks are like currency in the NBA for trading, building, etc. Everyone wants them and needs them. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Strange Cloud says Saudi stooge.
Saudi stooge is what you're looking
for.
Saudi stooge.
Okay. There you go. K. Nurin says, yes, my game of the year, BYU and Notre Dame. Don't miss this one. Don't. Join us at Barbecue Pit
Stop.
Stop.
Man, the Barbecue Pit Stop thing is going to be fire, literally. I mean, wings, pizza. And I also think it's going to be cool for a lot of people to get together. We have people flying in. It's going to be a big event.
It's going to be a can't miss. We're going to do our Football Saturday show be live from Barbecue Pit Stop. So we'll be doing a live show there. That's going to be great. We'll have a guest chair if you really feel so inclined. You can, sit next to Jake and he'll,
While I'm eating my flats, obviously.
Yeah. How about you being an idiot at the store the other day? Like trying to get flats instead of drums.
Hey, guys.
Like you're just, man, I don't know. Xavier Pena says the Knicks will be begging to give Toppin, Grimes, and 7 first-round picks for Spida when the season starts. I totally disagree with that.
No. Begging's a little extreme.
Yeah. Top Junkie says, Jesse, KD will get a much bigger return package than Mitchell. I'm not a KD fan, just stating facts. Can Monty and Jake help? Who gets more in return, KD or Donovan Mitchell? Well,
this is not even a conversation.
I guess it depends on who the buyer is. Because I actually don't think you can say, well, KD's worth more draft picks than Donovan Mitchell, because here's the problem. You're only worth what somebody's willing to pay for you. And I actually think that Kevin Durant is damaged goods. I think Kevin Durant's a guy that has tremendous value around this league. But the issue is that Kevin Durant has hurt his reputation now. And I think it's been a bad look. Am I willing to give up 6 unprotected first-round picks to get Kevin Durant? No, I'm probably not. I'm not willing to give up 6 unprotected picks to get anybody. Now, is Donovan Mitchell worth 2 and Kevin Durant's worth 4? Probably. Is Kevin Durant a superior player? Absolutely. Does that mean somebody's going to pay more for Kevin Durant than Donovan Mitchell? No, absolutely not. It does not mean that.
Yeah, I think Kevin Durant's price is largely attached to Joe Tsai's willingness to let Kevin Durant twist in the wind while the season wears on. That's what I think his price is tied to. I think if Joe Tsai, the owner of the Brooklyn Nets, is willing to let Kevin sit out and be a malcontent, and Joe Tsai is essentially willing to do what Daryl Morey and the Sixers did, in that whole thing.
Right.
If he's willing to do that, the price for KD is going to be steep. But again, and we've had this conversation many times on the show, the price of a player is not what their numbers say the price is. The price is what the market dictates it at. So, Rudy Gobert, that haul that Danny got for Rudy, literally broke the league. And we have a video on the channel back on July 1st. If you go to the channel, sort it by date, go July 1st. I'm pretty sure there's a video there that says, Danny Ainge broke the league. And he did, because he got all that return for Rudy Gobert that he never should have got. And so now, when we talk about prices, well, if you got that for Rudy, what are you getting for Don? What are you getting for KD? Well, KD's damaged goods. Don's not a championship player.
There you
so
go.
What is the price? That is the issue.
That is the issue. I agree with that 100%. Freezy Breezy.
Oh, so, dude.
Says if you don't have a set star young player with some good young talent, you're ruined. If you don't have picks, look at the Nets years ago. Yeah, totally agree.
Yep.
Freezy also says, Mitchell, if you're looking for a young talent, Katie, if you're going for a chip, not right now. I think
Agreed.
that's absolutely true.
Totally agree.
And that's why I say I don't know. Golden State doesn't have that kind of package, although, I mean, Kuminga and Wiseman.
But Golden State doesn't need it though. That's the problem. That's what makes Golden State unique. They don't need you. They don't need Kevin. They just won without him. Like, they don't need it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. G.O. major comment dump. Hello. James Jensen says, I have to believe the Jazz sat down with Mitchell before all of this offseason mess.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you go back to our videos in December and January, the Jazz and Donovan Mitchell have a healthy communication.
Mm-hmm.
They are on the same page. And I think that has not changed. I think in their conversations, after the season ended, their conversations through the summer, I don't think that's changed in any way, shape, or form. So I would agree with that. Leonard Donnan Endelove says, we back. What's up, LDN? Good to see you, my friend. Kanai Johnson says, just imagine Katie and Ja. That would be deadly.
Yeah, but you can kind of see the potential of that. You can see, okay, if you have, again, Dylan Brooks is the most important part of the conversation. Ja Morant is Ja. He's always going to do what he does. You know what you're getting. But Dylan Brooks, the defensive prowess that Brooks brings, you have to retain him in a Durant deal. So, again, Ja Morant, Kevin Durant, Ja Morant, Kevin Durant. Man, that's trippy.
That's close.
That's close, yeah. Morant and Durant. Jaren Jackson and Dylan Brooks. Those four guys, if you can have them on the same team, you're a championship team.
Yep. Rance says Brown is better than Mitchell. Which
I think
Jaylen Brown?
Yeah, Jaylen Brown.
No,
yeah.
I'm taking Don.
Well,
I mean, the Donovan Mitchell with that group of talent is a better player than Jaylen Brown.
That's fair.
I mean,
That's fair.
to me, that's the conversation here. Like, it's very difficult to compare. Donovan Mitchell has had a subpar roster around him pretty much his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you look at this Utah Jazz team was built around Rudy Gobert. And I think it makes it very difficult if you are Donovan Mitchell to thrive in that situation. I think when you look at Don, he's had Rudy Gobert and Bojan Bogdanovic. Mike Conley. If you look at Jaylen Brown, he's had Jason Tatum. He's had Marcus Smart. He's had guys around him that make him a better player. But if you look at Donovan Mitchell, who on the floor with Donovan Mitchell makes him a better player? Mike Conley, when he first got here, okay, I can buy into that. Last season's Mike Conley, he's a 3-and-D guy.
Donovan Mitchell ever get to play with Kyrie?
But I think there's also something to that. There's also, it's the Boston Celtics. They have routinely pushed and improved and remade that roster.
Kemba Walker.
But I also think you're seeing now with Danny Ainge, and while Kemba and Kyrie didn't work out, you gave him the chance, right? You put talent around him. I look at Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge is doing that same thing right now.
Yeah.
So the question is going to be, is Donovan Mitchell going to be part of this team when training camp gets here?
I hope so, man. I truly hope so.
I think if he is, I think we're having a different conversation. There's no doubt about that. Josh Rodriguez says, Knicks fan here, don't expect a trade. Our front office is totally different now. We won't bite, and Ainge won't bite either. I think that's why we've heard reports that they're out looking for a third team. And I think that's exactly what I would be doing. Jesse P says, no way Mitchell is better than Jaylen Brown. Well,
I think I don't know if you're a stat guy or what you're basing that on, but I have to say I agree. If you put Donovan Mitchell in Jaylen Brown's situation, I think Donovan Mitchell surpasses Jaylen Brown, and I don't even think it's really that close.
And I'll just go back to what I've said about Don this summer. He looks amazing. He looks as healthy as I have ever seen him. I've never seen him have the bounce he has in his legs now.
Yeah, he looks rested is what he looks like. He looks strong. Like, I don't know if Don just didn't have the legs for it the past couple of seasons, or like what's kind of changed, or like what he did exactly, because it's not like we've seen him doing anything that's like outlandish or rocket science-esque, if you will. But he looks better. That's just not in question.
I think Donovan Mitchell is a better three-point shooter than people give him credit for, and I think Donovan Mitchell, if what we see on the court in this summer and these runs at Rucker and the Miami Pro-Am and the runs with Chris Brickley, if his mid-range game translates, forget it. I mean, he is.
I'm for real.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you, he's top 5.
Yeah.
He's top 5 in the NBA, and I know I get a lot of heat on that, but he's top 5 in the NBA. Jesse P says Mitchell's another Carmelo Anthony situation waiting to
get the hell out of
wanting
here.
to play in New York.
No. That's not even that you're again, as the running joke on the show goes, with all due respect, in my opinion, that's an embarrassing comment. He's not even close to that.
I think Don is far more dynamic than Carmelo, and I think Donovan Mitchell is far more of a professional than Carmelo was when Carmelo was a Knick. I think that if Carmelo could go back, he'd handle that situation completely differently. I just have no doubt about that. Keith Turner says, we don't really know what Leon Rose offered for Donovan. Maybe he's the one that's trying to lowball Danny. I feel pretty good about what I've heard that Leon offered, and that is 2 first-round picks, unprotected.
Which would be lowballing for sure.
For sure. I mean,
I want a discount.
I think that if Leon Rose had his way, he would trade. My guess is he would trade Obi Toppin, Evan Fournier, and 2 first-round picks for Don. And I just don't think that's a deal you make.
By the way, I actually think if everything is equal, that's actually a fair price. But the problem is everything isn't equal.
No.
The problem is Danny's never going to take that. That's not even close to what Danny's asking
There's
for.
no value in that for the Jazz.
Yeah.
Look, let's say they're complete. They're trying to burn it down. They're desperate to trade Donovan Mitchell. 2 first-round picks, that's it?
Nah.
That's not going to work. You're not rebuilding with 2 first-round picks.
I'm going to say this again.
Right? What does Obi Toppin really bring you as a team that's rebuilding? He's going to wind up getting moved.
Yeah.
He's going to wind up getting moved. And Evan Fournier, you have no value in Evan Fournier. That doesn't make sense. If you're a rebuilding team, I think the fair market value for Donovan Mitchell is 4 first-round picks that are unprotected and a guy like a Quentin Grimes. If I'm the Knicks, I'm never giving Grimes up. I think that highly of Quentin Grimes. From what I've seen and what people have, I thought he looked really good in summer. The knee looks fantastic. It looks fine. It's not an issue. Quentin Grimes looked really good in Vegas.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade him. You don't need, neither one of these teams needs this deal. It doesn't make the New York Knicks an Eastern Conference contender.
Nope.
It makes them a mid-table Eastern Conference team. They're not winning 50 games. And I think if you look at Milwaukee, Philly, the Bulls, you look at the best teams in the East, those are all 50-win teams.
Miami, Boston, and Milwaukee.
I don't know if Miami's a 50-win team right now. I'm having trouble understanding what Pat Riley's trying to accomplish in Miami. I'm not they're good, they're not great. I think Boston has a chance to be elite. I don't know what Miami's got. I don't know how much Kyle Lowry has left in the tank. I don't know how long Jimmy Butler can play at the level he's playing at. There just is I'm not a Tyler Hero guy at all.
53 wins last year.
Yeah. And you still have, I think Duncan Robinson's still on that team. I mean, you're missing some things there.
Yeah.
That's a team that if you add Donovan Mitchell, now that becomes a team that can win the East.
The Miami Heat were 8-6 against teams above 500, so that kind of tells you what you need to know.
Yeah. They're good. They're not great.
Yeah.
Philly is great.
I can't get down with Philly's great, dude. No, I have to disagree with that. Philly's not better than Miami, and Miami is good, not great.
Philly is far better than Miami.
Nah, well, we disagree then.
Philadelphia
we disagree.
But based on what are they not better?
Based on Jimmy Butler is better than James Harden. But
you don't need Jimmy Butler to be. You don't need the Philadelphia 76ers were dysfunctional last year. I think we saw the hangover of that trade. You have a full summer. You have James Harden being selfless and giving away money to stay on the team. He clearly has dedicated himself. The guy looks really good, in shape. I think Tyrese Maxey is going to have a year of years. I think Tyrese Maxey has a chance to be one of the best young players in this league. And I mean, he's a guy that could break out and become like, holy cow, where did this guy come from? He can be better than James Harden is right now. He can be the number 2 on that team. It's got to happen. But Joe has shown he can stay healthy now. I think Harden's going to be better. I don't know what to make of the group around those three, but man, I think they have a chance to be the best team in the East. Chris Middleton's breaking down, and guys that have played as much basketball as him now with a knee injury, like, you really worry about his viability. The Bulls are not a better team. They're not a better team, in my opinion. That's not a team where you're like, oh yeah, that's a better team. I don't see them as a better team. That's me. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Big Bucket Talks says Philly and Miami on the same slate. Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. Kurt Meyer says, how can you discount the Bucks? Because Giannis just had an MRI on his back. I don't know if anybody saw that. He's played a lot of basketball, and now he's playing the Euros. Chris Middleton's coming off of a significant injury that cost him a ton of time. I can question the Bucks.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. Rant says Philly better than the Heat, just got Melton too. Now have wings. And by the way, you have House on that team.
No, and it's just not. You're not. Listen, I'm not saying you're wrong about the roster. Yes, on paper they're better. I'm talking about when you're head to head in a big regular season game. You're really going to sit here and tell me you believe that Philly's going to win that game?
I do, because I think they're going to be better defensively.
Well, we'll see.
And I'm not a Tyler Hero guy. I think for Miami to win, like win, like championship, like really be there, Tyler Hero is going to have to be unbelievable, because he's still on the team. I mean, I'm talking current day today.
Yeah,
because I think there's a chance they trade him. He's still on the team. By the way, let's not sell out Atlanta. DeJounte Murray, although I think he got his bag slapped over what he did to Banchero.
Yeah,
I think some people were not amused.
Yeah, he clearly changed his tune on that.
With what DeJounte Murray did to Paolo Banchero was not funny.
I don't think Philly's never won anything recently. They've never done any significant winning, even with having Harden and look, obviously Joel Embiid. That pretty much explains itself. I mean, the guy's a stud. There's no doubt.
How much do you think the Kawhi shot changed that franchise?
A lot. I mean, they were on track. They were on track for sure. But again, it's cold blooded, and I'm not trying to be an asshole about it. But he did make that shot. Like you lost the game.
Yeah.
And that's just how sports goes. And I think that since then, that was obviously a huge moment in time for the Sixers franchise. But I'm not a believer in James Harden. I don't believe in the guy. You have never won anywhere you've been. And in the clutch moments when you had your opportunity, you went 0 for 27. And no, I'm not letting that go, because that was one of the biggest moments of his career, and he did nothing. Absolutely nothing.
And James has not been healthy for 3 years now. I mean, he's got to show, and it looks like he has. I mean, he was out of shape, let's be honest.
Yeah.
When he was in Brooklyn, he was out of shape. But you can see now that James Harden body is back.
And I'm glad to see it. I am. The potential for him to have a big year is definitely there. I mean, he's showing all the right signs. The less money thing you talked about, like, great. Everything's there. But again, I need to see him roll up in a game of consequence and go 6 of 8 from 3 and put up like 45 points and just dominate the game. I got to see that out of him to start believing that they're better than the Heat in playoff time, because the Heat have shown me. Not this past year.
Well, that's true.
But the year before.
The Heat have shown. And I think Jimmy's shown that he can be that dude.
I mean, Jimmy's going to show up. I mean, I agree with you. Tyler Hero's been incredibly inconsistent, and that's what leads to them not going far enough.
And they're just not. Philly has not been good enough defensively, and I think they will be. Let's see. Ruggs89 New York says Obi is Leon's first draft pick. Grimes, RJ, and Obi are off the table. I can tell you that's just not the case.
Yeah.
That's not the case. I mean, the Jazz and Knicks have talked about all three of those players. I think 2 weeks ago, Leon said, I'm not trading Grimes. I think he would trade Obi Toppin today to get Donovan Mitchell. He would do that deal today. I think he would trade RJ Barrett today to get Donovan Mitchell. I think absolutely he would do that. And I don't think you can fault him. And this goes back to go back and watch the show on Friday when we talked about how loyal fans are to their teams. Mm-hmm. I think Knicks fans are far too loyal to RJ Barrett. Far, far too loyal. I'm telling you. Let's see. Jesse P says Boston isn't winning a championship with Tatum being the centerpiece. Well, we've debated that on this show as well. And this is the Devin Booker conversation. Can Devin Booker be the best player on a championship team?
He hasn't shown it yet.
He hasn't shown it yet. Jason Tatum didn't show it.
Dude, Jason Tatum's the one thing Tatum has going for him is his teams have been there regularly.
Right.
That's both his greatest asset and his greatest, knock. Hey, you've had this is the LeBron conversation. You've been to the finals 10 times and only won 4. You're a 40% winner right now. So is it greatness to get there 10 times and lose 6 out of 10 times?
Well,
or is that a bigger failure? I don't know. I think it depends how you look at it. So, for Jason Tatum, I can't, Jesse, your comment there, I don't necessarily disagree that Tatum hasn't done enough winning, but what I can tell you is Tatum's been there, regularly. Tatum has, we all remember, youngin' Jason Tatum dunking on LeBron and the chest bump, and, they end up losing, but that was one of his best moments. We all remember Jason Tatum, going through these playoffs and being Mr. Clutch, and then everyone criticizing him for not being clutch. When you get to that point and people are criticizing you for not showing up or having a bad game, yeah, I think you've arrived. I think people know that you've got the goods. So can he win or can he not win? I don't know. It remains to be seen. But I can tell you, I would damn sure rather have Jason Tatum than James Harden. I'd rather have Jason Tatum than Jimmy Butler right now. I would. I would take him over those two guys for sure. And I think, Jason Tatum's only going up. And dude, I just that when, you watch guys and you're like, yeah, Jason Tatum's going to win eventually. I think obviously he's going to win a championship. I don't think anyone doubts that. So I don't know, man. I guess I disagree, but I think it really just comes down to how you view, that the whole success versus failure thing, getting there and not winning, is that success or is that failure?
That's failure.
You know what I mean?
That's failure. And would you rather get there? I mean, would you rather get there and lose than not have got there at all? Well, yeah,
sure. And this is the Devin Booker thing. Hey, you got to the finals and you lost. And then, and the problem for Book is that you got embarrassed, you got shellacked out of the postseason. And in this crap about DeAndre Ayton and using him as an excuse and him being, a malcontent, not that Book leaned on that, but I feel like as an organization, that's kind of the narrative in Phoenix right now. Well, DeAndre Ayton was a malcontent and bench issues, and, they just weren't, together when they were playing Dallas, and that's why they lost by 10 points, right? No, you lost by 50 points. That's my problem right now with Book. I don't doubt that the guy is a killer. I don't doubt that he's one of the best players in the league, but you got to set the record straight here.
I think that Devin Booker is a guy that I obviously am a huge Book fan. But he's that guy who will go off for 60 points in December and 16 points in June. And I need 30-point Book in the playoffs. I need 40% from 3 from Book in the playoffs. Is that difficult to do? Sure it is. But the best players in the league do it.
Yep.
If you're truly, that Mamba mentality, you'll do that.
Yeah.
Is Jason Tatum that guy? I don't know. Of the young players in the league right now, I still think that Devin Booker is the best player. But somebody's coming for that ass, right? And by the way, I would mention to all of our Phoenix listeners, because I know we have a big following there, this might be the last ride.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, how many years does Chris Paul have left? I don't know. I honestly don't know how much time Chris Paul has left. I think it's really interesting to kind of contemplate that. Mikal Bridges, Devin Booker, you can ride with those guys.
Yeah.
Chris Paul is the glue that holds that team together.
Yeah, and I think that Chris Paul is, he is aging, no doubt about it. He's been water's wet, and Chris Paul is hurt guy. That's been the narrative about his career, and he's never won.
And that hasn't changed, by the way. That has not changed in Phoenix.
Nope.
Because Chris Paul has been hurt in Phoenix. He's had these broken hands and
little stuff.
That hasn't changed.
Yeah. That's who he is.
All I'm saying is the East is open for business. If you want to win, go all in and win now. Trading for Donovan Mitchell doesn't do that. Just a couple more. Luka Doncic from CAA Mafia. Luka will have a better career than both Tatum and Booker.
Yeah, I mean, I already think his career trajectory is higher. I think he's the thing Luka's got going for him is that he's in Dallas and everyone thinks that he carries them. That's that. And the narrative is, hey, Luka's carried you and you just haven't had enough to get over the hump, because the NBA is no longer a one guy on a team can carry you league, so that's what Luka has going for him. But again, I can make the case that Luka's an improve it year as well. No more Jalen Brunson to help you, bro. Like, what are you gonna be? You've got Christian Wood now. Like, you've got some players. Like, what does that look like? I don't know, but I'm just telling you, Luka has been playing in huge games his entire life.
Yes.
The big game thing doesn't faze him at all, and that's why he's able to have fun with it. Like, I give Luka a lot of credit in that Phoenix series when they were down. He was like, "Hey, it's easy to talk junk when you're ahead. Let's see what it is when the series flips." I thought that was a pretty telling moment in his career. Now, he is petty as hell.
Phoenix is very perplexing. Is it the owner or is it the player's fault? Like, if Devin Booker is on Boston and Tatum's on Phoenix, does Boston win a championship this year? I don't know, because they're not in those different positions. But I just feel like Boston has a superior team, and they didn't win.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is on Jalen and Jason Tatum.
Well, a lot of it is Steph's greatness. Steph doing Steph.
Game four. Boston should have won that series. It was there for the taking, and you let it slip through your fingers. I'm not taking anything away from what Golden State did. Clay was dead on his feet. Draymond Green was terrible. You had that series won. You did your job until you didn't do your job. You didn't execute. And if you're not going to consistently execute in the NBA Finals, you're going to lose. You got out-executed by a more experienced team with a better head coach. And their star player was better than your star player. Plain and simple.
Facts.
The stupidity of the turnovers alone talked about experience.
Yeah.
Let's see. MI Jazz fan says Luka is a one-man band. He's a black hole. This is a really good point.
Yep.
This is a really good point. Great players and get buckets, but better career is what respects. Statistics, then yes. Success, then no. I think we're going to find out about Jalen Brunson in New York, because you give the ball to Luka, it's never coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It's never coming out. And I think when you look at, like Kristaps, didn't show us anything in Washington. Porzingis has been overrated his entire career.
Mm-hmm.
What is Jalen Brunson? Is Jalen Brunson a better, more dynamic player outside of Dallas without Luka than I think he is? Than he was in Dallas? I think he is. I absolutely think he is.
We'll see.
Antonio Ruiz says Booker Mitch. I'm taking Devin Booker every day.
Booker who?
Donovan Mitchell.
Oh.
Devin Booker.
I think you got to take Devin Booker.
But if Don comes back the way I think he's coming back.
I do have to say, Don did put up 55, I think it was, or 57 in the bubble in a big playoff game against Denver. Like, he's shown he can do it.
And how'd that end up?
Yeah, they lost.
Jesse P says Luka's biggest challenge is staying in shape. It is. JP Shanahan says, what did I miss? A lot.
Fat.
A lot. Let's see. CAA Mafia. If Spida was 2 inches taller, he'd be the best shooting guard in the... Well, he's not.
Yeah, that's the thing, dude. He's not.
He's not. And he still can be. He still can be. So, Freezy Breezy says 100-plus turnovers. Truth. H-Money821 says Brunson will be good anywhere he's a point guard.
Well, and he knows how to use his body. That's the thing I think he's got going for him. He really knows how to be physical with guys, which I think in the NBA is kind of a lost art. But, I think it's a big change when you go from playing with a superstar the caliber of Luka Doncic to playing, again, not hating on RJ, but like that level of player. That's definitely a step down, and I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, we'll see. Rance says don't sleep on the Nuggets. I agree. Ruggs89 New York says I can guarantee you that Tibbs is going to trade Obi. Who said that? Who said that? Tibbs, and by the way, it's not Tibbs' team to trade anybody.
Yeah.
No source. Obi is Leon's guy. He's untouchable. Okay. Well, keep rolling with that. That's cool. Well, maybe you're right. I could be wrong. Leighton Griffith says Knicks are going to regret the day they trade RJ Barrett. Can Mitchell handle the NYC media pressure?
Well, that's a fair question.
I think he can. There's no doubt about that. Kenai Johnson, Brunson bullied Booker after he got called soft. Did he, though? Did he? I don't think.
I think he answered it, but I don't know that he bullied him.
I wouldn't say he bullied him. Larry Bird was a better player. People forget how good he was. Kane Nurin says. Okay. I mean, Larry was good, but he couldn't stay healthy at the end of his career. That's what really hurt him. H Money 821. Nobody said Brunson will be a superstar. He will have a solid career anywhere. But you're going to give up a first-round pick for tampering, and you're paying him all that money. You need him to be a star. You need him to be like a foundational piece of that team.
Yeah.
So, who knows? We'll see. 8:10 Mountain Time, 10:10 Eastern Time. Let's switch gears. By the way, a little breaking news in the NFL for you. Tom Brady is back with the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's in practice this morning. I want to play you this piece of audio. From Dana White. Did you guys hear this over the weekend? Dana White was right here in Salt Lake City. I thought the UFC did very well.
Mm-hmm.
The media raved about it. Not that that means much in this town, but Dana White on Friday said something about Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski that shocked the world. Let's listen to it.
I worked to put that deal together for Brady and Gronk to come to the Raiders. And it was almost a done deal. And at the last minute, Gruden blew the deal up and said that he didn't want him. And all hell broke loose, man. It was crazy. And Brady was already looking at houses, and it wasn't being said yet that Gronk was coming. So Las Vegas would have had Brady and Gronk the year that the Bucs won the Super Bowl, except Gruden blew the deal up. And there's so much story that goes along with this behind the scenes. And I was never going to tell that story till Gronk just said it.
Wow. How about that? Dana White, the god of the UFC, says that he personally convinced Brady and Gronk, Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, to come to the Raiders, and John Gruden, quote, blew the deal up. Do you buy it?
What an idiot.
Yeah, I do buy that on some level. I think Dana White is very connected. I think Dana White knows people, has relationships. He's just great with people, and I think that's why the UFC has been able to get to the level it has reached. And I'm not going to sit here and say that Dana White did this on his own per se, but I definitely would not be surprised if Dana White had, a big hand in this. I mean, think about it. If Dana White was able to get Tom Brady and Gronk to the Raiders, that raises the profile of Las Vegas, right? If the Raiders are a Super Bowl contender, what does that do for the UFC? Oh, well, the Raiders, sick. Now I can put UFC events in Allegiant Stadium, or even if it's at MGM, I mean, it's still going to be a sellout. That when you raise the profile of your city by bringing guys the caliber of TB12 and Gronk, you're only helping your own brand. So to me, I think Dana White has all the incentive in the world to get this done. Now, I don't know why John Gruden, before his racist emails came out, I don't know why John Gruden would shoot this deal down. I don't know, but obviously it didn't work out. So, hey, I mean, it is what it is. But, yeah, I mean, I guess I do put, probably like 60, 70% stock into this story for sure.
So you're all in on the fact that hey, man, this is Gronk and Tom Brady to Los. I believe it. Tom Brady, I think, would have loved to have been a Las Vegas Raider.
Well, and I think Tom wanted. I think there's a lot of credence to Tom wanting to play on the West Coast. I think he never really had that opportunity as a player.
But then he went on to win a Super Bowl that year, and everything worked out fine. Why would Dana White make this up? And Dana's not the one who wanted to tell the story. Gronkowski brought it up.
And Dana has incentive to do things like this. That's what I think.
He does.
That's why I think it is credible, because it just makes sense from a business perspective to raise the profile of everything around you. Because, again, you're not competing with the Raiders. You're not even competing with the Golden Knights. You're not. What you want to do is you want to help them raise their profile. That way the UFC benefits from that. That's why I think this makes sense.
Anything that makes Las Vegas sports better is better for the UFC.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. The UFC has shown that they can go to different continents. They can go to different cities. They're going to thrive everywhere. but the biggest, baddest, best UFC shows are in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And I think if Brady and Gronk had gone to Las Vegas, my goodness, I don't even know.
I'm going to say this again.
I mean, the show, Las Vegas is a thing on its own.
Yes.
But the other thing that I think this proves is that Dana White is a bad MFer. This is a guy that knows everybody. This tells you about the popularity and the gravitational pull of the UFC.
I'm for real.
I mean, Joe Rogan showed out. I sold out Maverick Center on Friday night and put on an unbelievable show. Like Joe Rogan stand-up comedy. He was here in Salt Lake City Friday night at the Mav and sold that place out. And by all accounts, it was an amazing show. Then the UFC comes to Vivint Arena. Usman gets kicked in the face with 20 seconds to go. I mean, it was an unbelievable night. Dana White is an absolute entertainment magnet.
Y'all feel me?
He's a guy that is an operator. He's a guy that is absolutely got relationships that run very deep. I think this tells you the who's and the how's and the what's of Dana White's money-making empire. Mm-hmm. I think the world of that guy.
Well, and I think the thing is, it goes without saying he wouldn't be where he is without the UFC, but I think the thing about the UFC that is different than other sports is that guys like Kamaru Usman can lose at any time. And that is what I think is just so entertaining about the UFC. I mean, obviously every sport has its rando football game or rando fight or whatever that you don't really care about.
Yep.
But when your main event is set up that way and a guy gets knocked out when he was supposed to just win this fight easy, that's the beauty of it. And that's why it thrives everywhere it goes.
But here's the question that I would ask. Would the UFC be where it is without Dana White?
No,
and
probably not.
I had
not.
the great fortune of being around the UFC when it was just exploding in 2003 and 4, when it was really coming on.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it was an amazing thing to have.
Drop that motherfucker.
Like in Sacramento, we had Chuck Liddell in studio back at the old
Iceman.
Sports 1140 KHTK. Right? Like, so we had, I mean, it was an amazing thing. And Dana White just continued to build this thing. And I'm telling you now, the UFC would not be where it is today without Dana White.
Yeah.
There's just no doubt in my mind. And the idea that Dana White was able to pull Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski to Las Vegas, not surprising to me at all.
Nope.
Now, I think the guy is an absolute master. All right, let's see what everybody. Gabe Ledley says Raiders fans are already insufferable. Can you imagine what they'd be like if TB12 and Gronk were on that roster and they had won a Super Bowl? And had they won the Super Bowl, Gabe? My God. Can you imagine that? I can't even imagine that. No. By the way, I don't think there's any doubt the UFC was an unequivocal success in this town.
Yeah, it did well. I mean, and ticket sales were a little light in the week leading up, but, the place, as I understand it, was pretty much sold out.
And the fight, the whole card
that's what I'm
was...
saying, but that's what I'm saying. This is why the UFC works, though, because, Kamaru Usman was one of the most dominant fighters the UFC has seen. I mean, this guy was an absolute savage, and he gets dropped. And
he got kicked in the face, man.
Yeah, dude, like the way it happened, like the fact that, like you said, there were 20 seconds left. Like, this fight was over.
Yes.
This fight was over. And then dude, rolls up with a face kick, drops him, and next thing you know, he's standing in the post-fight presser with the belt around his shoulder. Like, it's just incredible.
Yep, I agree. MY Jazz fan says, how in the hell did Dana White work to get this deal done? What affiliation does Dana White have to the NFL Raiders, Tom Brady? Seriously, I highly doubt this. I don't doubt this at all. Dana White just knows people. The UFC has an enormous fan base amongst the elites in this country. And if you look at the crowd that sits ringside, do you think it's an accident that they put, movie stars, rock stars, athletes ringside? That's not an accident. They do that purposefully.
I want to say, and I'd have to go back and double check this, but I saw a tweet while the fight was going on about the fact that Darren Williams, Dalton Kincaid, and Brant Keithy were all sitting ringside at that fight. Like, that's the type of person you're getting at these fights.
Yeah, totally. David Tervort says, don't doubt Gruden is just dumb enough to blow up something like that. Well,
And
yeah,
look,
I mean, yeah.
I think as far as Dana's concerned, what you have to understand is it's not like Dana went to, the Raiders front office and was like, hey, you need to sign these guys. That's not how it works.
No.
Dana is a conduit. Dana is a bridge man. Basically, Dana is going to say, okay, yeah, I'm good friends with Tom. And Tom is best friends with Gronk. So if I can just go to them and say, hey, like, what do you guys think? Like, the Raiders just built this new stadium. It's Vegas. Like, we're exploding. You'd be a huge thing here. You get them to say yes, and then you go to the Raiders and you say, hey, these two guys are interested. Are you interested? He's a conduit. That's what Dana White does. Because think about it. What does Dana White do for a living? Dana White puts fights together for a living. So when Conor went to Dana and said he wanted to fight Khabib in Russia all those years ago, like, Dana tried to make that happen. This is what the guy does for a living, man.
Yeah. MY Jazz fans struggling with this concept. He says, Dana White's sitting around. Tom Brady's a free agent. Let me get involved and close this deal. You think Tom Brady actually listens to Dana White over anyone else begging him to play for them? I think...
Bro, this is not... Dude.
I think that Dana White has a very good relationship with those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't, and you got to remember, Jay Glazer and Dana White have a very good relationship, and Jay Glazer and Tom, like, they're in a circle, man. They're all
it's context.
This is a bunch of big time dudes that are gazillionaires all hanging out talking. I mean, the incentive for Tom Brady is he grew up a Bay Area fan. You got to remember, he grew up in the Bay Area. He was a longtime admirer of the Raiders. Like, there is no question in my mind that kind of thing is going to happen.
The concept, listen, and I understand where you're coming from. I'm not saying that you're fully missing the boat here, but the point is that you got to put this into the right concept in your mind. It's not Dana just calling Tom and being like, hey, dude, like, you want to play for the Raiders? No, that's not how this works.
No.
I mean, you got to understand that these relationships are built over years and decades. And, like, Dana White and Tom Brady, I'm not going to say they go back 20 years, but these guys have been friends for a long time.
Yes.
And so when Dana, I guarantee you, Dana didn't just call Tom. I would guess, again, this is a guess, a speculation, but just based on experience and knowing how these things usually work, Dana probably lobbed Tom a text and said, hey, would you even give a thought or even a breath of conversation to playing for the Raiders? Is that something that you would even consider? That's probably how it started.
And again,
like,
let's play this bite again from Dana White.
Yeah.
Because I think as we talk about this story, and if you haven't heard, over the weekend, Dana White, in the lead up to this fight, was talking about how he had brokered a deal between Rob Gronkowski, Tom Brady, and John Gruden, who at the time was still running the Raiders and had full autonomy over the roster.
Are we clear on that?
He had the last say on personnel moves. So Dana White says this about his dealings with Tom Brady.
I worked to put that deal together for Brady and Gronk to come to the Raiders. And it was almost a done deal. And at the last minute, Gruden blew the deal up and said that he didn't want him. And all hell broke loose, man. It was crazy. And Brady was already looking at houses, and it wasn't being said yet that Gronk was coming. So Las Vegas would have had Brady and Gronk the year that the Bucs won the Super Bowl, except Gruden blew the deal up. And there's so much story that goes along with this behind the scenes. And I was never going to tell that story till Gronk just said it.
Brady was already looking at houses. I wasn't going to tell that story until Gronk already
and
said
that's
it.
the thing that I think adds credibility too. I mean, again, like, Gronk brought it up. Dana did not.
It's not like Dana White's just out, just throwing this out like, hey, look at me. Hey, by the way, want to see it?
Yeah.
Like, no, this is Dana White, like, being asked about a story and confirming it.
Yeah.
And why? And why wouldn't he confirm it? Why wouldn't he confirm it? Like, For my money, this just talks about the stud that Dana White
Power,
is.
dude.
Like, it is, it is what it is. It's unbelievable that deal fell apart. It is unbelievable that deal fell apart. Jesse P says someone was out to get Gruden. Okay. All right. Tanner says, I think Gruden is still upset about the Tuck rule. Absolutely could have been.
I want better fucking execution.
Kenai Johnson says, man, that sucks. He watched his foot coming to his face. Yeah, Usman got kicked in the face. The Nye guy says the Utah Stampede of the NFL. Yeah, I don't know about that. Rance says Brady admitted it was a fumble on ESPN. He did. Well, he's wrong, Rance. According to the rule, it was okay.
That's every day.
Tanner, are we really going to argue the Tuck rule?
If you felt these balls,
really? Is that what we're doing? Jesse P says everyone knows it was a fumble. Tuck rule was terrible. Riley O'Brien says morning casuals. Morning, Riley.
Dude.
All I can say is Tom Brady, growing up in the Bay Area, being a 49er fan, he would absolutely have put on that Raider uniform. There's no doubt about that. There is absolutely, positively no doubt about that.
Yes.
That would have been amazing. That would have been amazing.
Yes.
Okay. Where do you want to go here, Jake?
We need to talk football. Cam Rising.
You want to talk Cam Rising?
Yep, let's go.
I wanted to talk about the Manti Te'o documentary.
No, we'll do that in a minute. Let's talk Cam Rising.
All right. Porch Pirates, FedEx trucks, or U-Haul trucks, and the Manti Te'o thing.
Cam Rising, then you can talk Manti Te'o. Please.
Why is Cam Rising not getting more love in the Heisman Trophy?
Because he plays at Utah. That's why.
Well, you're convinced of this.
I'm convinced, and here's why I'm convinced of it. Utah is notorious for not being a quarterback school. Not a quarterback factory. Kyle Whittingham-led team. We're going to play defense, and we're going to run the football, and the defense is going to put the offense in a position to win the game. That's how it's always been at Utah. So when I look around nationally, and I start to look at guys like, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, like any of the big name quarterbacks in college football.
Okay.
All those guys get the run they get because they play at Alabama, in Ohio State, in quarterback factories, schools that routinely put guys in the league at the quarterback position. Utah does not do that, right? Like, that's just not what they do. And so when I look at the funny part about this Heisman list, Utah last week comes out, was ranked number 7 in the country. Everyone was all up in arms about that and said that was too high of a ranking, and holy cow, how is that even possible?
Right.
But then the quarterback of the number 7th ranked team in the country is not on the Heisman watch list. How is that even possible, bro? How is it possible that a guy that had a teammate die last year, that carried his team after his team bet on some quitter quarterback from Texas, how is it possible? Noodle arm quitter quarterback from Texas. How is it even possible that nationally no one knows that story? How is it even possible that Cam Rising is not on the Heisman watch list? Now, I'm not saying the guy's even a front runner to win the Heisman, but what I am saying is that this guy took his team to the Rose Bowl and had a hell of a year, and now he's got a lot to prove. You're going to Gainesville. You're going to Florida. That stadium's already sold out. People are ready for this matchup. I'm telling you, if he balls out in week 1 and they beat Florida by 10 at Florida, dude, it would be incredibly disrespectful not to have him on the Heisman watch list. And so that's why I was so surprised. Now, Jaron not being there, totally get it. You play at BYU. BYU early in the season never gets the credit that they deserve. You're going to have to earn that right. But by week 5 or 6, if BYU is still a 0-loss team, you better damn well be assured that he will be on that list. There's no doubt about it.
All right, here are some of the names that I think are ridiculous when it comes. All of these names are ranked ahead of Cam Rising according to NFL.com.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Van Dyke, the quarterback at Miami.
Disrespectful.
Okay? But, well, I don't know if
it's disrespectful.
If they go on and win, and if he goes on and, the guy's got a 20-3 touchdown interception ratio, right?
Right.
But if he throws for 3,500 yards this year and he keeps up on, if he throws for 30 touchdowns, okay, I could see Tyler Van Dyke being in that. But He's not won anything. He's not, he's not.
Yeah, he didn't go to the Rose Bowl.
He doesn't have the profile that Cam has. But this goes back to the Miami Hurricanes being a better brand than the Utah Utes.
Notice what you said there. He didn't say they were a better football team.
No, a better brand.
A better brand. That's two different things.
Yeah, and I think Mario Cristobal being there is a big reason why Tyler Van Dyke is there and Cam Rising is not.
Right.
Number 7, Dylan Gabriel, Oklahoma, quarterback. Are you telling me that Oklahoma is in a better position to succeed than Utah? And
I have trouble with that, man.
I have a lot of trouble with that.
I have trouble with that.
You want to talk about disrespectful. Dylan Gabriel being number 7 and Cam Rising not being on the list is disrespectable.
Yes.
Disrespectable. It's disrespectful. There's no doubt about that. Jackson Smith and Jigba, wide receiver, the Ohio State.
Dude.
He's a stud, but he's a wide receiver, not a quarterback.
Dude, exactly. He's a stud. Nothing to take away from him, but you're a wide receiver, not a quarterback.
And C.J. Stroud, your quarterback, is arguably the number 1 option for the Heisman Trophy this year.
Donnie, please.
Come on, guy. Come on.
That's crazy. Willie Anderson, the defensive end at Alabama.
So wait, we're putting defensive ends ahead of Cam Rising.
Yeah, 17.5 sacks, 35 tackles.
It's really despicable.
Come on.
Shocking. Bijan Robinson, the running back at Texas.
Can kind of understand it, but not really.
Okay, so we got a lot of heat on this comment last week when I said that Texas was going to be good, but they're not currently relevant.
Yeah.
Am I wrong about that?
I mean, I think that Texas is always relevant to an extent. I think that when Texas, again, like when Texas is doing Texas and they're playing in big games, yeah, they're relevant, sure. But nationally speaking, Texas hasn't even been in the conversation for the college football playoff. Utah has been way more relevant than Texas has been in the last 5 years. Are you kidding? This is what I struggle with. We're not putting Cam Rising on the Heisman Trophy contender list, or watch list rather, even though his squad that he led through adversity and through difficult, dark times, like, you got to the Rose Bowl. That is a big feat in college football. And I understand, hey, you lost to Ohio State. Totally get it. Cam got hurt, so he doesn't get the benefit of throwing for 300 or 400 yards in the Rose Bowl. I get it. But I'm just saying, we're sitting here talking about defensive ends and running backs and wide receivers, skill position guys, not quarterbacks, being ahead of Cam Rising.
Well, I also think there's this conversation about big schools, big brands in the Heisman Trophy. And let's see, somebody said that about big name colleges are the only ones that win Heisman trophies.
Yeah.
There's some credence in that. Here are the last 5 Heisman Trophy winners. Bryce Young, Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Devontae Smith, Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Joe Burrow, LSU.
Go Tigers.
Verticality, Kyler Murray from Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Baker Mayfield from Oklahoma. Then after that, it's Lamar Jackson from Louisville.
Okay.
So far and away the best offensive player. So you get it. Derrick Henry, Alabama.
This is Coach Saban.
Marcus Mariota, Oregon. Jameis Winston, Florida State. Johnny Manziel, who, by the way, speaking of Manti Te'o should have won it. But Johnny Manziel won it. Robert Griffin III from Baylor. And then again, it's Scam Newton from Auburn. Mark Ingram from Alabama.
This is Coach Saban.
Sam Bradford, Oklahoma. Tim Tebow from Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Troy Smith, Ohio State. Matt Leinart, USC.
A lot of SEC.
A lot of big name, a lot of big brand colleges.
So
in
you
there.
see what I mean. You see what I'm getting at here. Utah is not a powerhouse of a national brand. That's the problem here. And when we talk about, and again, we ain't got time to go down this rabbit hole today, but I think it's really important to point out, when you talk about no NIL work at Utah, when you talk about really poor branding at Utah, when you talk about the running Utes not being good, when you talk about the football program not getting the credit it deserves.
But look at Caleb Williams. He's number 3 on this NFL watch list for the Heisman.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams transfer to USC.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying that Caleb Williams.
But it's not just that Caleb Williams transfers, that Lincoln is there.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley. Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
By the way, who was the head coach of all those Heisman Trophy guys from Oklahoma? Lincoln Riley.
Yep. Kurt Meyer says, do you really think we're getting a Heisman out of a conference that is not the Big Ten or the SEC?
No, the conference doesn't matter, dude. The conference plays no role, in my opinion, in Heisman watch listing.
What plays a role is they're on TV.
Yes, that's what plays a role. Sure, yeah.
And I think it's a huge problem for Cam Rising.
Numbers and exposure is what the Heisman is about.
And I think a lot. This is a lot of why Jaron Hall has a better chance to win the Heisman than Cam Rising does.
Yeah, and a lot of people are going to say, well, how is that even possible if Jaron's not even on the list? Well, because he plays at BYU. They've got a tough schedule, and 11-0 at BYU is a lot different than 11-0 at Utah.
I think it's a lot different.
It's a lot different.
I think it's a lot different.
Yeah.
So I don't disagree with that. K. Nuren says QBs go to BYU, not Utah.
I agree.
Can't disagree
and that's
with
what
that.
I mean. Utah is a running back, defensive back, powerhouse. That's where, if you're a running back or a defensive back, you're going to Utah. If you're a quarterback, you're going to BYU, or probably you're going to Oklahoma, frankly. All jokes aside, like, if you're a quarterback and you want to get to the league, you're going to Alabama, Ohio State, or Oklahoma. Those are your 3 surefire, no doubt about it.
But I think USC puts quarterbs in the NFL.
Not good ones.
Not
good ones.
But it doesn't matter if it's a good one. I mean, Caleb Williams is going to the NFL not because he played at Oklahoma, because he's going to be a USC alum. I mean, it doesn't matter to me if you're good or not.
Yeah.
I mean, USC
then
puts
maybe you get to the league. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot more. My thing with that is just that Oklahoma guys tend to get their extensions. Like Kyler Murray got his extension. Like these guys that come out of Oklahoma, and like Trevor Lawrence is probably going to get an extension now, assuming he has a good year.
Darnold got traded.
I don't
disagree with that.
Like so it's just, anyway. The point is that my whole thing was with this topic. The reason I wanted to talk about it is I just felt like Cam was getting a lot of disrespect, and I know that a lot of people think that we're just a BYU show.
I think Cam is getting a lot of disrespect.
We only talk about BYU. Well, I'm here to tell you, I thought this was incredibly disrespectful to not only Cam Rising, but to the program. I mean, it should be a shot over the bow.
But listen, I also think that there's no reason to believe that Cam Rising can't win the Heisman Trophy.
Agreed.
I mean, arguably, I guess, I think Utah's the best team in the conference. I think USC is a very good team. I think USC's,
dangerous.
USC is dangerous. I would agree. I think Utah's the better team.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to find out on the field in October.
Facts.
When the Trojans roll into Rice Eccles, you better be ready to go.
Yeah.
Because if he loses that game, he's not winning the Heisman.
Agreed.
But again, I just look across the landscape and I look across the names. Ohio State's on TV. Alabama's on TV. Yeah, and I think when you look at
Notre Dame's
Dame's
BYU
on
is
TV.
on TV.
BYU's on TV. You look at all these guys that are on this list. All these guys play on TV.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that Ohio State's got 2 guys on this list. There's a reason that Alabama's got 2 guys on this list. They also recruit really well and they develop talent. I do think reputationally these preseason Heisman watch lists are a lot of fluff and a lot of, hey, he plays at Alabama. There's a lot to that. So my feeling is that Cam Rising's got a very long, steep road to win.
Yeah.
But there's no reason if he handles his business on the field and he doesn't turn the ball over, because if he doesn't turn the ball over, Utah's going to win. They're going to win games.
Yep.
He's got a phenomenal running back. He's got what I think is going to be a really good offensive line. The defense at Utah is always without question. Does he have a wide receiver who can put highlight tape on SportsCenter?
Yeah.
That's the question.
Yeah.
Because they're going to run the ball really well, and Cam's going to look good throwing it. Does he have a wide? Because, look, with all due respect to Keithy and Kincaid, those are 2 really good pass catchers. You need somebody, you need Vele to break out and have a huge year.
Yeah, tight ends can't thrive without good wide receiver play. It just is what it is.
It is that simple. A couple more on this. Let's see. As a BYU fan, this was disrespectful. Rising as a Heisman candidate is.
It is, yeah.
That's
what I mean. I mean, he just to me, it's just a no-brainer. But again, we're here in Utah. We see the guy. We know the culture. We follow the program. Like nationally, I don't think people do.
Yep. K. Nurin says, be sure to hit that thumbs up. Yeah, please give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. I should. Rodney the other day was DMing me, telling me that I should tell people, hey, you got to do that. It's part of the game. Tell people to hit like. You're right. Please give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Hook it up.
Subscribe. Hit the like button.
Yeah,
turn
by
on
the way,
notifications.
By the way, we're just short of 7,000 subscribers.
Yeah, so get the job done. Tell all your friends.
If you guys could, get your mom to subscribe, that'd be great.
Yeah.
We are 76 subscribers short. 6924.
Yeah, come on. Let's go.
Of 7,000.
I want it.
We are right.
Can we get to 10,000
there.
before the end of the year? I think so.
Yeah, it would be great. 10,000. That's only 3,000 subs.
Yeah, we're doing about 1,000 subs a month right now.
3,076 subs.
Yeah. So we really should be able to get there.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe.
Let's go.
It really helps the channel grow. Josh Loveren getting crazy this morning says, again, Gardner Minshew finished 5th in the Heisman voting in Pullman.
Minshew.
His mustache finished 5th. Let's get that right. He says Cam can end the year finishing top 5 in Heisman. He can win it. He said it's Pullman and they only play on Pac-12 Network. LOL. That's very true.
I think I legitimately believe that Cam has a chance to win it, but they have to be a one-loss team. You got to be a one-loss team. You got to beat SC. You got to beat these teams.
Because I think Ohio State's vulnerable. I mean, they didn't show any ability to stop anybody last year, as witnessed in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah,
but they gave up a lot of yards late. I mean, Alabama, I don't see a weakness in Alabama this year. I mean.
No, this is the best Alabama team you've seen in probably the last 5 years or so.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Alabama's always very good, and people are blowing up my phone right now. But
are they in vanishing mode?
They are in
vanishing
They are
mode.
Not in vanishing mode.
This is Coach Saban.
I just think that Bryce Young is a hell of a quarterback. I think defensively they're going to get after the quarterback's ass at Alabama as well.
Yeah.
They always have athletes outside. We'll see. I mean, I think the hard part is that Bryce Young won the award last year. Mm-hmm. So they don't like giving it to a guy back-to-back years.
Well,
that's very, very Archie Griffin comes to mind. But we'll see. I don't know. M. Morris says, you start pumping BYU, you'll be at 10K quick. Well, I mean, we talk about what's relevant. BYU is pretty relevant.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Is Manti Te'o relevant? Am I finally allowed to?
Yes, you can. I want to hear your bit on Manti Te'o. So let's talk about this.
So
before the Netflix thing last night, how did you remember Manti Te'o before you watched it?
I mean, the scandal absolutely, and it's still how I remember Manti Te'o. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. I think most people who watch this show know that. I mean, you can see right over my left, right, that's a Notre Dame mirror logo thing. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. And watching the Manti Te'o documentary about this fake girlfriend and he got catfished, and the one thing that really stood out to me about that was this ruined Manti Te'o's life. Like, this ruined his life. And it is remarkable. If you have not seen the Manti Te'o documentary on Netflix, you have to go watch it. It is incredible. And I knew of this story, obviously. I followed it very closely. But it's incredible, the detail about it. Mm-hmm. It's incredible the way that this was pulled off. And I just feel awful for Manti. It ruined his entire life. They texted. By almost no fault of his own.
Mm-hmm.
Almost no fault of his own. And the maneuvering that this person, whose name I will not say, that this person did to pull this off is incredible. And watching it on tape, watching that documentary, like, it really impacted me. It's weird. Like, how you watch something or you watch a movie or a TV show and you're like, damn, that got me.
Spinal.
Like, I was emotional after this thing was done. Like, I thought about it all night long.
Where are we
all
at
night
in
long.
society today?
Seriously, all night long, laying in bed, I thought about this documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And it really just played havoc with my brain. Like, just thinking about everything that Manti Te'o went through and thinking about just how reckless and useless and unnecessary this whole thing with Manti Te'o was.
Facts.
It's hurtful almost. Like, and I don't know Manti Te'o at all. Like, he's just a dude. It cost him millions and millions and millions of dollars.
He's very relatable, though.
It likely cost him his career. It likely cost him endorsement dollars for no reason other than an odd attraction from a distance. And I don't know. I don't know why we do this to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's where my mind was at on it. The Manti Te'o story, I mean, that year, that is one of my fondest memories. Back to Michigan, Notre Dame, back to, like all of, the Lou Holtz era, like all of that stuff. Like, I love Notre Dame football. That year, what was that? 2009, I guess.
Yeah.
Where he just absolutely, I mean, the guy was an absolute stud. Or I guess 2012. 2012 it would have been.
Yes.
He was the god of death on the football field. Manti Te'o was an absolute stud.
Don't you know who I am?
And then he gets to the Chargers after he goes through all of that. Falls out of the first round, millions of dollars. Gets drafted and ends up in San Diego.
You're so fucked.
And freely admits he couldn't play football. He's like, mentally, he goes on to tell this story about how his whole body was numb and that he was questioning his existence. And he stops just short of saying he thought about suicide.
Yeah.
All of this for a game. All of this so that this person could feel better about themselves. All of this so this person could feel gratified. It cost Manti Te'o his entire existence.
Yep.
And it's crushing, man.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that's the best way that I can put it. It's crushing. This guy is forever known now by this fake girlfriend that he had nothing to do with.
Instead of being a model human and an elite football player, which is what he was until this whole thing happened.
And this person is this person who pulled off this
they're
just incredibly selfish.
And it needs to be said, a couple of things that I think are really interesting conversation points. And go and watch it. It's truly incredible. But a couple of things. Number one, the fact that nobody knew the term catfishing. Catfishing didn't exist when this all happened to Manti Te'o, number one. Number two, I think the way that the media... So the way it got rolled out, and I'm not going to explain that, go and watch it, but the way it got rolled out, the way the story was initially released, and then how quickly it took off, and just how deep the media came down on Manti Te'o was truly incredible. And I think that's ultimately what got to Manti is that the media basically took him from this model human, like man of faith, football player, Polynesian guy, Hawaii guy, to this guy's a fake, this guy's a liar, this guy, essentially created this narrative about some dead girlfriend who died of leukemia that never actually existed. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. And so it started kind of sparking this conversation around, well, now we know what catfishing is. Now we know what to look for and what the red flags are and what the signs are. And it still happens every single day. You have a show on MTV about catfishing. That's how much it happens. So that's why I just think for Manti, he was just dealt truly a crappy deck of cards, if you will. I mean, it was an unwinnable situation.
Yeah, and it's really sad. Like, to see the pain that his family suffered through this.
Yeah. And I think in their culture, that's the thing. In their culture, the representing your family thing was big.
Well, you have to remember that Manti Te'o grew up in the LDS church. Manti Te'o grew up a devout Mormon. Manti Te'o grew up, in a Polynesian family that was about football. Manti Te'o's entire childhood was structured for him to be a great human being and a great football player.
Mm-hmm.
And his the points he made about, I wanted to go to USC. I wanted to go to USC. I was ready to commit to USC. And then I was asked, well, do you want to be the next great Polynesian football player at USC? Or do you want to go to Notre Dame and become something special on your own to be the only Manti Te'o?
God bless.
And he's like, yeah, I gave up my dream of going to USC to go to South Bend, Indiana in the middle of the winter, and I was miserable. And it's just, I mean, it just hits you like,
yeah.
I don't know. I think because it's Notre Dame, I was a lot more emotional about it than I probably should have been. But that was really an emotional thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it was really.
Yeah, like put you in a weird space.
It did. It wrecked my mood last night. Like, I thought about this. Like, I was dreaming about who the people in my life are that were lying to me. And I had dreams about telling people, hey, man, I've seen the Manti Te'o documentary. Like, that was in my dream. It was weird. Like, me and Late Night P Guy got up and had a conversation about it for a few minutes last night.
Right.
And then I went right back to sleep and was dreaming about it again.
Sad.
You know, and you know the other thing about the Manti Te'o documentary that was so fascinating? He talked about imposter syndrome in the documentary. And if you don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's Manti Te'o, a dominant high school linebacker, a dominant college linebacker. He gets to the NFL after going through all of this struggle. And he's like, I was standing there on the field. I couldn't feel my body. And I was asking myself, like, hey, are you getting exposed that you're not really a good football player? Like, are people going to find out that you're a terrible football player? And it's that whole thing, and it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so real. You know, like, hey, am I actually, you know, this guy? Am I actually? And he talked about it when he got to Notre Dame as well. And his first snap at Notre Dame on the field in a game was a bone-crushing hit. Like, he rocked a dude. And he's like, I never questioned myself as a football player again until he got to the San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, man. Like, I just.
Yeah, man.
Have you ever been catfished?
No, I haven't been catfished at all. No.
But
I also haven't. I would never really operated in that space. I never, like, I wasn't, like, I feel like catfishing really happens a lot for people who spend a ton of time, you know, on Facebook or like online constantly, and I get it. With Manti, it was kind of a different thing, sort of a unique situation. But I feel like with a lot of these catfishing stories, it's people who are just kind of chilling online and just doing whatever they want, and, you know, they run into something. And next thing you know, you're sending thousands of dollars to a person you've never met. And so for me, that just never, I never found myself in that position because I wasn't, that just wasn't me. I wasn't that person.
Yeah. M. Morris says BYU fans remember him by his choice of Notre Dame over BYU. Well, BYU was never in it. Notre Dame was in it just because I think there was, you know, faith there. And it's Notre Dame. But he was going to USC the whole way until, you know, that happened.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, geez. Kurt, why would you say that? No bots. What's going on? We have to liven up this program. Well, we're talking about catfishing now, so that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Let's see. Kanai Johnson says you have to win games to win the Heisman. That's very true. You do.
Yes.
Absolutely, you do. Let's see. Tanner Plummer says, I'm going to watch that documentary later today. You should. Cal says it didn't ruin his life. It dented his NFL life. He's still a class guy. He's got a lot to look forward to. Let's not get carried away with it ruining his life. It ruined his life.
Yeah, it did.
He talked about it.
Did you watch the documentary?
It absolutely destroyed his life. It didn't
yeah.
ruin his life. It destroyed who he was, his existence. It destroyed his relationship with his family. It destroyed his relationship with his dad. They've had to work hard to rebuild their relationship. Do you guys understand that when this whole fake girl thing came out on Deadspin, people were like, "Oh yeah, he's gay. Oh, Manti Te'o's gay. Oh, his girlfriend's fake. He's gay." Do you understand what that does in the Polynesian community
at that time?
Do you understand what that does in the LDS Church? Like, I mean, that's not something that we. And I said this to you guys, to Mrs. Monty and Jake last night when we were watching this. Like, it's not funny, man. Like, it's not funny to joke about somebody being gay. Like, it's not funny to, you know, oh, I catfished that guy. Like it destroyed this man's life. It ended his football career as we knew it.
Yeah.
He has not been the same football player. Like his career, do you know the difference between being a top 10 first round pick in the NFL and being the 38th overall pick in the draft? Well, it's not even the money, like the money that he lost, but the position you land in, the team you land on. Are you serious? Like it absolutely. The sad thing is it will define his life forever. Because you know what else is terrible about this? Look how long it's taken for people to be like, oh, Manti Te'o didn't make up a girlfriend to hide that he was gay. Do you know how many people up until this documentary came out thought Manti Te'o was gay? Like from my USC friends, I have a ton of USC friends. Do you know how many people talk to me about Manti Te'o's fake dead girlfriend that he made up because he couldn't handle the pressure of playing at Notre Dame? That had nothing to do with it. He loved the pressure of playing at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. It really is. It's really unfortunate. Where do you get it? It's on Netflix, by the way.
Yeah.
Brother says, I really don't even watch between documentaries and Netflix, but I heard this guy's a legend, so I give a respect to him and his career. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Let's see. Boy, there's a lot of comments on this. NY Jazz fan says, I haven't watched it yet, on the list, but can't help but feel bad for Manti Te'o. Completely senseless acts upon other people that human beings do. That wrecked Te'o. No wonder people don't trust each other.
Yep.
Seriously.
Yep.
Manti Te'o is not gay. Manti Te'o did not make up a fake girlfriend. Like, it never
this all
happened.
Spawned because he was trying to help somebody.
Yeah, I think it's really unfortunate that this whole there's no way to get around it.
Yeah.
There's no way to get around it. You know, like it just is. It's so frustrating. It is so frustrating that this happened to that guy. Like, anyway, Tanner says, is Manti still in the NFL? Last I checked, he was on the Saints. He is not. He's a free agent. He is a free agent. Giggity says, not only did it destroy his life, it also destroyed his ability to build generational wealth. Yes, it did.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it did.
Which really matters, and it matters for everybody, obviously. But
yeah, and I think Giggity, you're exactly right. Like the pride and the, for better or for worse, pride and masculinity in the Polynesian community are massive. And that to have people telling you your son is gay, for you to believe that your son is gay in the Polynesian community, in this particular family,
yeah,
it just was so damaging, rightly or wrongly. It's just incredibly damaging. Like it's insane. So how common do you think catfishing is?
Very common. I think it happens all the time. I think that, Facebook is the one that is the guilty party here. I think we we obviously see it go on Instagram as well. But I think the problem is that catfishing is born out of this whole situation we have with cell phones. Like the problem is that people don't meet in person to date anymore, and I think the time we're not allowed to talk about because YouTube hates us talking about it really exacerbated this problem. But people don't date in person anymore initially. Like you don't go to, that bar, that place, or like, it used to be like for your generation, there was a spot you'd go to, like a common social spot where you could potentially meet someone. That's not how it works anymore. It's dating apps, it's cell phones. That's how the dating game works now. And so when you are, respectfully, when you don't like yourself a lot or you're trying to create some sort of persona or, because in this documentary, the person that we're not going to name talked all about how, the world she was living in reality wasn't the world that she was creating outside of it. So her life was a lot different than the person she was catfishing Manti with. And I think that's the problem. We have this whole thing where we think we can just create another reality by creating online profiles and talking all about how, hey, like once we got to the point where we would meet, I would just block them and stop talking to them. Like so it's almost like a drug. It's almost like an addiction. That is the problem that I see with it. So I think it's very common. I think it's commonplace. I think it's a staple in our communities and our culture. And I think it's something you have to watch out for.
Did you ever worry about it when you were dating? Because you used a lot of the hinges, the matches. Like,
yeah.
Did you worry about Did you worry about getting catfished when you were dating?
I mean, I wouldn't say I worried about it. I would just say that I was pretty cold-blooded about the whole process. I was somebody that didn't give the benefit of the doubt. I asked a lot of questions. I had no problem. Like when I did meet someone, I had no problem asking them serious questions about their past or like, what they do for a living and like how that impacts them and what their life is like. Like I had no problem asking all those questions. I just didn't. And I think that's what you have to do to get a read on people, when you meet them in person. Because if you don't do that and you just have like, surface level casual conversation, you don't get the stuff that you need to decide whether to keep going or not.
Yeah, I think that it is really, I think is pervasive the word? I don't know.
I just think commonplace is the way I like to verbalize it. It is happening every day, hundreds of times a day. It just is.
Yeah, but how much did you trust women when you dated? Because now you've been in a relationship for 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, the relationship I'm in now is in a good place. But when I was dating, I would say that when I was dating, I think one of the things that I dealt with a lot was the fact that I didn't trust, that I did not, that I was not about, just letting these people tell me whatever it was. Like I said, I asked a lot of, I had no problem asking people like, hey, well, like, what's your relationship like with your family? Are you, close with them, distant with them? Like, are you, like I was, and again, I know we have a lot of folks here that are LDS, and I don't mean this in any type of way. I was not looking to date someone who was LDS because I don't share those values. That's not part of my life. I'm not from Utah. That's just not like how I grew up. So I was never, I guess I just never thought it would be a successful way to spend time, dating people who were LDS. So that was one of the first things I wouldn't even ask people. One of my first things I would always tell people is, hey, I'm not LDS. So if that's a problem, just go ahead and tell me now and we can move on. Like literally that would be one of my first messages to people. And incredibly, so surprisingly, that weeded a bunch of people out. Incredibly.
Yes, it did.
A lot of people were like, oh, okay, cool, no problem. And I was just on to the next person. So my whole thing was, I just want to root all these people out. I just want to get rid of all the people that are not even in my world, not even a chance with me. And then I got down to the people who I at least was willing to go and meet.
It's so painful to watch it.
Yeah.
Like and the catfishing thing's real, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I've been married for 20-something years.
Well, and that's what I think the conversation is.
Look, there she is.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hello, Mrs. Monty.
But that's what I think the conversation is, the contrast of when all this happened to Manti to where we are now culturally
Technology speaking? Or
yeah, like culturally, from a technology standpoint with smartphones, it's totally changed. And that's why I think that it's just different now, for sure.
Yeah, it is. I think we had a lot more trust when Monty and I met. It was on AOL Messenger, as ridiculous as that sounds.
Yeah.
But, there was a certain element of trust building up that relationship up until the point where we actually met face to face. And it's just totally different now. I'm sure there were people who were catfishes back then. It's just not a term that anyone knew. It was not as easy to do because Facebook changed that.
But isn't that what we've become in society? Like we've become the society that's now comfortable with catfishing. It's just a term. It's a TV show.
It's just like it's just like you have to look out for certain dangers in the world.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just a thing you look out for.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
And we saw it with a close family friend who's a little bit older, whose wife had passed, went out to start dating.
Yes.
First thing, catfished, fell head over heels with this woman who, did all the right things up until she asked for money. and then, it became apparent that it was a lie.
Yeah, I just don't know.
You just can't take people at their word anymore in the world. Like, I know that that's a crappy thing to say, but we're past that now. Like, the world we live in, it's no longer acceptable just to take someone at their word.
No.
You have to ask secondary questions. You have to vet them. And that's why I think, like, for all of you listening that have kids and stuff, like, dating is not a game. Dating is no longer just some mercurial thing where you're like, oh, yeah, like, my daughter or my son just going to go and date and it's going to be fine. No, that's not how it works anymore. The smartphone has changed things. And if you're not in line with that, if you don't understand why it's changed things, I would highly recommend reading about it and educating yourself.
Yep, I agree. All right, let's get some of your comments in here. Tanner says, Jake, you shouldn't have no surprised. Latter-day Saints keep to themselves when it comes to dating. Au contraire.
No, that's just not true.
Oh, contraire.
It's not true. And what I would tell you is, my experience was that a lot of people are LDS, and no one's going to like me saying this. A lot of people say they're LDS, but a lot of people don't live the LDS values, even though they go to church. And that's what I saw a lot on the dating apps, and that was a big red flag to me. You're saying you're LDS, you're in that culture, but you're not strong enough as a person to say, hey, I don't want to live those values, right? I'm only doing it because my circle is doing it, or like I had, like, this is how I was brought up. My family does it. Like, if you don't, if in religion is a big thing in the state of Utah, obviously. And I'm not trying to have a conversation about whether the LDS faith is good or bad, or that's not the conversation I'm having. I'm just simply saying, when I was dating, if someone said to me, well, I am LDS, but just because you're not LDS, that's not an issue. I'm okay with that. That immediately stood out to me, because I know for a fact that people in the LDS faith are looking to ultimately marry people of the LDS faith. I know that that's how it works for any serious, devout LDS person. So that's why I say, when that stands out, like, when they say that, that's a red flag.
But I think the other thing that's so important to mention is that, do you really want to date somebody who says they're LDS but isn't serious about their faith?
That's what I'm saying. It's
like that questions your character.
Yeah, it's a character issue.
Yeah. Strange Cloud says, is Mrs. Monty Jake's mom? Well, that would be a good question for you, Mrs. Monty.
I am not his birth mother.
Biological.
I'm not your biological mother, but Jake has lived with us since he was 14, and I first met Jake when he was 6.
Something like that. Yeah.
I want to say 6.
Yep. Yeah. No, the answer is no, she's not. Because everybody, it's awkward. You're talking about dating with your mom. Why would that be awkward?
Why is that awkward, bro?
It wouldn't matter.
What do you mean,
if
bro?
he had, like, I think these are the important conversations you have to have with your kids.
Dude, why do we always go to it's awkward? What's more awkward, talking about dating or talking about how your kid got scammed out of their college tuition?
Oh, well, Tanner clarified it. Tanner said, no, Strange Clouds. They kidnapped Jake when he was a baby. We already talked about this. Yeah,
yes.
We took him from a Pickwick, and he was just sitting in a shopping cart drinking a juice box.
Anyways.
Yeah, he had these adorable pudgy cheeks.
They're just sitting in a shopping cart drinking something.
The catfish thing is really wild. And the best thing you can do is date someone that you've seen in person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not saying you can't meet someone, but then you got to, if they're not willing to meet you in person, they're out.
Yeah.
Sorry, something's wrong. Gotta go.
But if they're like, oh, sorry, sweetie, my phone's broken, I can't video chat.
Congratulations.
Oh, I gotta work.
That's bullshit.
Oh, I didn't wash my hair.
You flew down here to see me? My mom died and my cat lost its arm in a horrible wood chipper accident.
No.
There
and
no, dude.
Please stay off Plenty of Fish. Don't set yourself up.
Excuse me, it's POF, please.
No, it's Plenty of Catfish.
Plenty of Catfish, because that is the worst site for catfishes. And I think it just preys on the vulnerability of religious people. That it's terrible. But anyways, let's talk about the real crime.
Okay, you want to talk about porch pirates?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow, Mrs. Monty switching gears on us. Porch pirates are ravaging Salt Lake City right now. And what a porch pirate is you get a package delivered, and what most porch pirates do is they will follow let's say an Amazon truck around, and they will steal the packages the Amazon truck is leaving.
It's really despicable.
And so what we've seen recently is they're now renting U-Haul trucks, and they are using the U-Haul truck to drive around for 2 reasons. 1, it can hold a lot of packages, but 2, it's also an anonymous vehicle. So it makes it more difficult to catch them. Instead of seeing like your 72 Chevelle, or your Prius or your whatever shitbox you're driving that day.
Catch me outside. How about that?
The point is
right
that it helps them steal these packages off of porches. Right. So there was a man and a woman, and actually this man and woman were operating down the street from us in a U-Haul. And there's a video going around in our neighborhood of this woman getting out of the U-Haul, running up to the porch, stealing a package, getting back in and driving away. Well, apparently there was, and it's cloudy as to the details, they caught the woman, and the guy of the man-woman tandem drove off in the U-Haul and then crashed the truck in Bluffdale, and they haven't found him yet.
Oh, what a loser!
But since they were so successful at porch pirating with a U-Haul truck, there are now copycats out there. And we have experienced this, Mrs. Monty.
Yeah.
Right.
We've actually experienced 2 times. Once was when we lived in Southern California. Weird
it's
occurrence.
Truly incredible.
We happened to get up really early to work out. And
we were doing P90X.
Yeah, P90X in the living room, which was right in the front of our house at that point. And we had our neighbor's driveway was next to our driveway. So like a tiny, like a short little block wall, but we could easily see their cars. Line of sight was there. We're working out and we heard a noise and we were like, what the hell? And then we looked out. A girl had busted the window on our neighbor's truck, dove in, grabbed the money. He had toll money in his cup holder because he drove
Loose
on the
change.
Yeah. Grabbed the money, got into a car, and they sped off. And what happened, we found out later. We all ran after him, and we're taking pictures, and we're getting the license plate number. We're calling the cops because we just happened to be at the right place at the right time. But they had gone down our entire block, and probably not just ours, all the way down, checked car doors, and they stole all kinds of stuff. Laptops from our neighbor who left his work bag in his truck on his driveway right in front of his house. But they didn't care. If your door's open, boom, I got it. So that was the first time. The second time was in Phoenix. And I happened to be up really early. It was like 4:30. I had a stressful job. I didn't sleep well. I had a lot of work to do. So I got up really early one morning. I sat down at my computer, and all of a sudden, and we had a Vivint home security system, and the panel was right across from my office. All of a sudden, the panel lit up, and I heard a noise, and I was like, "What the hell?" And so then I started I didn't know exactly what to do. But there was a guy literally stealing the stuff off of our porch.
Like just crappy $5 tin plant holder rack thing.
Yeah.
And the driveway's long enough where it makes it a bit risky to do it.
It does.
He had to run through the garden to get back to his truck.
And he almost fell down.
Yeah.
Like we were watching we watched the replay and he almost fell down getting into his truck.
Yep.
So of course, me being a gun owner, what did I do? Absolutely nothing.
You were in bed.
I was. You woke me up. I got my 9. Tried to find the guy, but this is the worst of the worst.
And he stole stuff down the street too.
He stole everybody's
gone
stuff
down the street.
Yes.
Stole the things that he wanted that were further down the street because we lived at the start of a cul-de-sac. And then came, and ours was the last house that he was going to steal stuff from and sped off. Wild.
You are a scumbag. If you are stealing off of people's porches, if you are a porch pirate, you're a scumbag.
You are desperate.
You are
which is partially sad.
You are the worst of the worst. Because what I have no respect for is when you steal from people who have achieved what you are not able to achieve. And so you take the easy route out. And it doesn't matter to me if you're addicted. It doesn't matter to me if you're homeless. You're a terrible person. If you are driving around stealing U-Hauls to steal people's packages, you're a shitbag. If you are going around stealing things that people need because you don't know what's in that box.
Yeah.
You know what? You're a terrible person. And there is no I don't think there is any effective way to stop this. I don't. My frustration is, and we've talked about this on the show, FedEx will drop off packages at my back garage door in the alley behind my house. I have no idea they're there. No idea they're there. Because when we have a security system in our house. So if you even walk past our house, you're on camera. So when Amazon or, UPS, the actual humans of the world.
Right.
And the problem is at FedEx, and it's a hard job. FedEx is not an easy job. Amazon, UPS, the mail, not an easy job. The guys at FedEx are contractors that drive their own trucks. And so they don't hold the same standard as like the FedEx employee.
Y'all feel me?
Yeah.
So they just drive through alleys. And we've seen the guy not even get out of his FedEx truck. He just throws the box and keeps going.
Well, didn't you talk to him? Or was that UPS?
I finally caught him one day, like a week ago on a Saturday or a Sunday. We saw the truck turn into the alley. And Monty was like, "Hey, that guy's going to drop off a package. Damn it." So I ran outside. I got him right before he got out of the truck. And I was like, "Hey, are you delivering here?" But I explained to him, I'm like, "Please don't put the packages here. They get stolen. They get run over by a car. They've been damaged. Don't put them." And the dumbest thing he said was, "I don't even know how to get to your front door. Where would that be?"
What do you mean you don't know? It's down. It's 100
It's
yards.
on the front.
It's right
of
there.
The house.
Right
Right on the street. I said, you wouldn't even have to turn down
Yeah.
the
It's
alley.
not, it's not like an apartment complex I can kind of understand because you just have so many buildings and door. Like, okay, cool. This is not complicated to find the front door.
It's not.
Like, at all.
No.
It's just not.
So
Yeah.
anyways.
It's frustrating. How do you stop it? I don't know if there's a good way to stop it.
Well, no, there is. You have to be vigilant. Porch pirates, is that the terminology? Porch pirates are just opportunistic thieves. All they're doing is going around and saying, "Oh yeah, we would want that, or we would want this." I mean, that's literally what they're doing.
Well, they don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't know what it is. Again, in Phoenix, our neighbor had a package delivered, and it was like, protein powder. They stole the protein powder. Whoop, womp, womp. You don't know if it's my oatmeal or if it's a camera.
Protein bars or
But still, the thing that I hate about it is that when we moved into the neighborhood we live in, we liked that there was, people had, chairs out and they had stuff on their porch and people spent time outside and their, kids leave their bike. It's still there in the morning. Like, it was a very safe, good feeling neighborhood. And now everybody's got Ring cameras. And so all we see all day long are, which is fascinating to me, that people, and one of the recent ones was in back where the garages are. Some of them are face the alleyways. And some ding-dongs were going through, again, checking your door handles. Did you lock your car? And they did it to a Tesla. Like, bro, the Tesla actually knows you're looking.
Yeah.
But also, if you have a Ring doorbell or a Vivint doorbell, a video doorbell of any kind, and it notifies you that someone is at your front door, look.
Yeah.
I think
vigilance is the key.
Yeah.
Vigilance, yeah.
But it's what Jake said, that you have a garage, park your car in the garage. You can't leave your door. This is why I lock my doors. This is why.
One of my biggest pet peeves in life is people who fill their garage with a bunch of junk and then are pissed off when their car gets broken into. Like, maybe all the stuff you put in your garage you don't necessarily need. Like, maybe we just have too many things, so maybe we should get rid of a lot of that stuff.
But I also think you have to be a good neighbor and tell your neighbor when their garage door's open.
Yeah.
You have to have your porch lights on. You have to. And the sad thing is, what else did you say when we were talking about this morning? Well, good luck if you're somebody with chairs on your porch. The only thing you can put outside are things that you don't mind being stolen.
Yeah. And that's what I said. I mean, I literally think it's part of getting to a certain level in life. Like, there are just some times in life where you have to be okay if someone takes your stuff. I mean, I honest to God feel like that's what it is right now with these people just driving around taking things, and that's, so I say, like, don't put something on your porch that you're going to be heard about.
Well, Kurt Myers has some solutions. He says they are doing the same thing with mailboxes. The only way you stop it is claymores and bear traps.
Saudi stooge.
Bear traps.
I mean,
I think the claymores might be a bad idea.
I think you could wind up in.
But
just make sure the lasers are covering the field that you'd like them to be walking through, okay?
Jesse P says get a P.O. box. But this is my point. Do I need to go and get a P.O. box so my stuff doesn't get stolen?
No.
How, like that? I should be able to have a package delivered.
Like, dude, it's as simple as turning your porch light on at night.
Yeah.
That's a deterrent to people.
But I should be able to have a package delivered without some jerk driving up and stealing it. Like, and I know that's utopic and ideal, but
like
is it really?
99% of the stuff you get delivered doesn't get stolen. Like, it's very rare that stuff gets stolen.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It is. I think this is the worst of the worst. Strange Cloud said I had a package stolen off my porch. Amazon replaced it. Which I agree with.
And they often will.
And Amazon's great about that. The problem is you're going to pay more for it down the line. Because somebody's going to pay for that loss, and I guarantee you it's not going to be Amazon. Snuka says sometimes you have to worry about the delivery drivers themselves. Sometimes, not very often. I think being an Amazon driver, UPS, FedEx, I think is FedEx has so much volume.
Yeah.
The stress on those FedEx guys is...
They ain't got time.
I think it's really difficult.
Yeah.
Really, really difficult. Brother... says, whoa, Mrs. Monty, do you ever have in-porch pirates? I mean, no offense. I've been working hard in every single list. It drives me crazy. What are you talking about?
Yeah, but that doesn't
I'm
make
confused.
I'm so confused.
You got to retype that out, my man.
Yeah, you're going to have to say that again. Can you pick up at Amazon like FedEx and UPS? You cannot.
Yeah. Wait.
You can? You can go to an Amazon warehouse and pick up your package.
They drop them at the drop,
the lock boxes.
The lock boxes. Yeah, they're all over. Pickup lockers are all over the place. If you live somewhere where you're not going to be able to get your package if it's delivered in the middle of the day, have it dropped off to one of their drop locations, and then you can pick it up anytime you want.
Yep. Let's see. Scammer Trolling says you should watch Mark Robber and the Glitter Bombs from Porch Powers. Yeah, we've seen those. They're phenomenal.
Fabulous.
They're phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I feel... this really bothers me. The porch pirate thing, I just have so little respect for people who do that. I understand it, man. Everybody's got needs, but...
And you're only selling my junk at like a yard sale. I mean, maybe times are so tough for you that's what you have to do, but I kind of feel like times aren't that tough. You're doing it because it's easier than having to actually work.
Yeah, you're lazy.
Yeah.
You're lazy.
What should the punishment be if they get caught? Because I don't think it should just be the value of the package that was stolen. Like, there should be life in jail at splitting rocks.
No.
What do you mean, no?
I don't know that it's life in jail splitting rocks, but there definitely is, a criminal factor. They didn't only steal my things off my porch. They did it to others. In California, the two that actually stole from our street where they got into all the cars, because we had reported it and we had the license plate number, it was actually a rental car, which is, again, the most common thing, right? They get a rental car because it's harder to trace back. They were staying at a hotel not far from where we were, and the police were able to trace the rental car. The rental car company told them, oh, hey, you have to bring it in. We'll swap it out. It's due for maintenance, something stupid. And we're able to trace them to the hotel where they were at, and it was full of stuff.
Yeah. Well, and yeah.
So it's not just you stole $20. You're stealing thousands.
Yeah.
It should be the valuation of the stuff you stole plus 1.5. Time and a half plus the value of what you stole. That's what it should be.
New York Jazz fan says, my uncle owns a few zip codes for Amazon in Utah. He said they do have people follow their trucks and are trained to look out for people tailing them. Even so, they have many demands. It's impossible. It is impossible.
Yeah. I mean,
that driver is under so much load to get those packages delivered. I mean, you can't blame them. Fat Jesus says it's only stuff. It's not like they stole your virginity. Jake?
Yeah, what?
Did a porch pirate steal your virginity?
No.
You know. Cody Strickland says, oh, crap, I just woke up and the show is still going. Sup, Monty fam, getting ready to hit the gym.
Whoop, whoop.
Are we all happy with the casuals getting cut results? Like, we talked about this earlier, Mrs. Monty. How are you doing?
Great. Like, I like that it's motivating. People are still talking. They're still talking about what did they do to get their steps in or how are they going. And it's just nice to have the support and the motivation, Yeah,
it's been, and again, if you're tuning in late, we're doing this because, snowboarding's coming. We're going to Hawaii in 2 weeks. So we've really been, we're doing this.
No one says it
thing.
like that.
Says what? Like
well,
what?
Somebody does.
Says what?
Anyway,
so yeah, we're going to Hawaii in 2 weeks, and No, I'm kidding.
That's pretty much self-explanatory.
We're going to Hawaii in 2 weeks to celebrate Mrs. Monty's birthday. And so we decided we were going to do this casuals getting cut group, and we've lost a good bit of inches. Like I only weigh myself once a week, and I think in the 2 weeks we've been doing it, I've lost 4 pounds. But it's because, I also went to the doctor and he smacked me in the face and said, go play basketball. So I've started. What the fuck are you, Ranger Rick? Yeah, I've started playing pickup basketball again, which has been great. But, it feels good. Like, I'm telling you, the carnitine works.
Oh, yeah.
If you are not using L-carnitine, and again, go pick it up at Max Muscle in South Jordan, use the promo code Monty15. But if you are not using liquid carnitine, you're crazy.
Yeah, it works
I
great,
think
man.
it works really well.
Yeah.
Really, really well. But anyway, here nor there. Mrs. Monty, what else do you have to add before the show ends today?
Gosh.
Scammer Trolling says, I'm guessing Mrs. Monty is turning 29.
Thank you. Yeah.
Suck up.
Yeah.
29.
Brown noser.
Yeah, plus 50 years, she's turning 29. Kurt Meyer says, I've just been walking and listening. Appreciate that. Kay Nurin says, we have a drop box on our porch. Not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what people are going to have to start going to, man.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea. Nice haircut, gents. Thank you. Appreciate that. Scammer Trolling says, I'm guessing Mrs. Monty's turning 29. NY Jazz Fan says, casuals getting cut is great. Lifestyle change, 11 pounds down. Let's
go.
Just feeling better all around. Great group and feels great. Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. L-carnitine and CLA 1000, NY Jazz Fan says.
There you go.
There you go.
All right.
Make sure
Do you even lift?
Make sure I do lift. Well, Jake doesn't because all he does now is play basketball. Make sure you give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow. Please hit subscribe if you're not subscribed already. We're really trying to get to 7,000 as fast as we can, and we are at 6926.
10 subs in the last hour.
74 to go to get to 7,000. So it's all good. We appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to join us at Barbecue Pit Stop coming up on September 17th. Barbecue Pit Stop in Lehigh. Until then, you can go to any of the 5 barbecue pit stops in the state of Utah. Dayton, Lehigh, Logan, Salt Lake City, and St. George. Fill out and enter to win slip, drop in the box, and you could win a trip for 2 to see BYU and Notre Dame in Las Vegas for the Shamrock Series. We'll see you September 17th in Lehigh. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Until tomorrow, say goodbye, Jake.
Goodbye, Jake.